get ready and for tonight's show. And of course, everybody that subscribes to my channel, to follow my channel, thank you so much for all the love and support. And don't forget, if you love the content, appreciate the channel and the weekly shows I always host for you guys, smash and press that like and subscribe button real quick. Don't forget, this is a public show, so everybody out there, if you're watching this right now, we do have a live chat, so please be always responding in the live chat, always sharing your thoughts and feedback. We definitely have a big topic to discuss tonight that's pretty much going crazy right now in America, if you live in America. Yeah, we'd definitely love to hear what you guys think. Definitely love to hear your feedback and what you guys think about tonight's topic. Always appreciate your feedback. Don't forget, it is a public show, so if you're not familiar with my content or my podcast, I always like to invite you guys. Some of you guys did reach out to me on Instagram. You asked about the link, and you guys wanted to be part of the discussion. So I'm definitely going to post the public link on the YouTube live chat. So if you're watching this from Facebook, if you're watching this from Twitch, you have to come to YouTube and go to the YouTube live chat. I'll post it on the YouTube live chat. It's going to be pinned to the top of the screen. Click on that, and you can be part of the conversation. I know there's a lot of people out there, whether you agree or disagree. I know a lot of my haters out there.
How dare you?
May disagree a lot of things that I say on this podcast. I always invite you guys to come on and be part of the conversation, and let's have a discussion tonight. So whether you agree or disagree, click on that link, come on and share your thoughts about this topic, because we have a good topic that's really important, especially how it affects our country and society, especially in Western society in America. All right, don't forget, we do have the super chat donations. I appreciate all you guys, your super chat financial donations. Every single donation will be reinvested to my content to give you guys better quality content. Of course, I'm launching my podcast studio by the end of this year to have real live studios, interviews in studios. So thank you so much for everybody out there. If you have a specific question, if you have a specific topic, we do have some topics that we're going to cover tonight that's related to the main topic that we're going to be discussing regarding Roe versus Wade. But if you guys have some subtopics or things that you guys want us to discuss, ask it through a super chat. I'll definitely give you a priority, give you a shout out, and thank you for your super chat donations, and be able to share that topic and get a live response from the panel of guests tonight. So if you have a question, you have a topic that you guys want us to discuss, ask it through super chat. And thank you for all the live financial super chat donations you guys always show to my channel. Much love to you guys. But that's pretty much all my YouTube stuff. I want to get right into it because, like I said, we have a full panel tonight. We got a full panel tonight. And thank you, shout out to all my guests real quick. All right. For taking the time to be on here. I know we have a hot topic that a lot of people in America are discussing regarding abortion, regarding Roe versus Wade. So thank you for taking the time and be part of tonight's discussion. Let's go over our intros real quick for everybody that's watching this right now. So to all my great guests, if you guys don't mind, give yourselves a quick intro for everybody that's watching this live, and we'll go ahead and start the show real quick. So I'll start with the ladies real quick. I'll start with you, Matilda. Thank you for being part of the podcast one more time, all the way from Ireland. Matilda, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hello, I'm Matilda. I live in Ireland, so you can see the sun rising in the background. I'm happy about the overturning of Roe versus Wade, so I'm hoping this should be a good discussion with everyone else, and we'll all be nice to each other. Happy.
If you're gonna play nice,
Yeah,
play nice.
just today.
We try to play nice tonight. Thank you so much, Matilda. Excited to have you on tonight's show. I'll pass it to Auntie Kalepe. Thank you so much. Long time no see. Good to see you back on tonight's show. Good to see you. Go ahead and.
I'm Auntie Cashapp. Thank you very much for this opportunity. It's nice to have a platform where you can meet different people and definitely agree to disagree, but definitely have a discussion. I don't have an answer as of right now because I'm still trying to gather up like my personal feelings and what's going on in the world. So I don't have a do or don't right now.
All right, no worries. Auntie, thank you so much. Always a pleasure to have you on tonight's show. Thank you so much. I'll pass it on to Lani. Lani, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hi, I'm Lani. I'm the same as Auntie Kalepe. I don't really have like a definite stance. I feel like I'm kind of in the middle. I'm both pro and con Roe versus Wade, how they overturned it. But yeah, I'm excited to be on this panel and to see how this discussion goes. Thank you.
No worries. Always appreciate having you on tonight, Lonnie. Lonnie, if you don't mind, you can just turn your camera sideways real quick if you don't mind. Appreciate that. And I'll pass it to you, Tui. Thank you so much, Tui. I'll go ahead and introduce yourself real quick. Always good to have you back on the podcast, Tui.
Oh, thank you. I'm so glad I was kind of on time today. I run on island time or black people time, which is like late for black people. And like if you're Samoan, I'm like late, late, late. So anyway, you want my stance on Roe versus Wade, the overturning, or you want my opinion on abortion in general?
I just want your intro. I just want an introduction right now.
How am I supposed to? Am I just supposed to say whatever?
You can just share whatever. But I was looking for your intro real quick.
Man, I feel like I need Savage for an intro, but it's okay. Okay, so my name is Tui.
All right, no worries. Sounds like a good intro.
Oh wait, you're breaking up. Is that me or is that you?
I think we're good. Go ahead, Tui.
Maybe she can't hear you. I'm not sure.
My name is Tui Sina. I'm from Hawaii. I'm gonna make it short because I don't know who's lagging me or everyone else. My name is Tui Sina. My stance on abortion is pretty simple. Women should not use it as a form of birth control. I do believe it is necessary in some situations. Molestation to save the life of the mother, sexual assault, things of that nature. Yeah, I'm really happy to be here. Let's argue.
All right, no worries.
Wow, Tui. No, I'm just kidding.
All right. Thank you so much, Tui. I always appreciate to have you on. I see some comments real quick on the live chat. I see two wonderful. I've noticed that everyone who is for abortion has already been born. Ronald Reagan. Ronald Reagan. All right, thank you so much. Wonderful. And of course, I see Tuitasi 1700. Greetings from the Most High. Yeah, thank you so much, wonderful, and Tuitasi 1700. Thank you so much for being on the live chat and tuning in. Shout out to you guys. Thank you so much. Thank you, ladies, for the quick intros. I'll pass it to the fellas real quick for the intros real quick. So go ahead, Vita. Vita, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
Hey, I'm Vita Bartolome is my full name. I'm from Vegas. Right now I'm in Fort Myers, just working, selling pest control. As far as my stance on Roe versus Wade overturning, does this set us back? I don't think it sets us back. I believe it gives a shot for the one individuals in the states to use the power that we have in the U.S. to make our own laws and where we live and how they are enforced.
All right, no worries. Yeah, thank you so much, Vita. Thank you for your intro and slash sharing your thoughts real quick. Let me pass it on to Devil. Devil, go ahead and introduce yourself real quick.
What's going on? You guys hear me okay?
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, my name's David. As far as abortion goes, I really only despise the people who aren't philosophically consistent with their stance on abortion. But I am kind of humble in that, like, I don't know enough. Science keeps advancing, like people might see, like there was a time where we didn't even know when the heartbeat was. There was a time we didn't know when the baby was sensitive to pain. So like our views on when it's a life is kind of constantly changing. So I'm kind of humble in that fact. And as long as you're philosophically consistent, I won't knock anyone for their thoughts. And my opinion on it is always kind of evolving. It's not fully formed. So again, it's kind of like an ongoing process. So I think I'm more on whoever said they were still forming their opinion on it. I think it was either Lanny or Auntie. But that's where I'm at.
All right. No worries, Devil. David, thank you for jumping on tonight and be part of the podcast. And last but not least, before we go right into it, Daniela, go ahead and quick introduction for yourself.
What's up, everyone? My name is Daniela, and it's a bit of a funny sort of take that I have on Roe v. Wade, especially because I don't live over in the United States. But in terms of how I sort of look at what the Supreme Court has done in overturning Roe v. Wade, I think this should give conservatives some backbone to start pushing policies at their own sort of state level or government level. What I've sort of seen over at the United States, which has a trickling effect all over, including here in New Zealand, is that the left is winning. And they're extremely winning to a degree where I will go as far as saying that America is heading towards a nihilistic sort of society. So Roe v. Wade, to me, doesn't set America back, but it is a foundation for at least conservatives to start putting some actual punches behind what they believe and what they stand for. Because currently the left is running rampant. And although the left complains about how society over at the United States is turning into chaos, they are in government. So they are only to blame. So that's my stance on it. So in terms of abortion, I am more than ready to get into this discussion. So we'll leave it there and we'll carry on.
I got a question for you, sir.
No worries, no worries. Thank you so much, Daniela. And shout out to the panel. Thank you for everybody that's watching this right now. Don't forget, I will post a public link real soon, right after this. And if you guys want to jump on part of the discussion, or some of you guys are DMing me, ask me for the link. So I'm going to post it real soon. And don't forget, if you love the channel, I appreciate the content, press that like, subscribe button real quick. But let's get right into it. You guys already know the discussion at hand. We're going to talk about Roe versus Wade, the Supreme Court overturning their rule on abortion. And do you guys think it is setting us back and pushing us forward? Obviously, you guys saw the reaction in the media. There's a lot of women out there, especially the progressive, the feminists, the liberal, who are more liberal. There's a big outcry because they think that this is setting us back to the dark ages, quote unquote, of what I see a lot of people were saying. But then from the other side, the more conservative point of view, a lot of people are saying that this is a good step for us forward, for families, for children, for more accountable selection when it comes to sex and when it comes to choosing a partner and for life. So yeah, I want to don't forget, we just for the sake of the panel, we have a big panel tonight. Let's make sure just you have 5 minutes per person, and then we'll open it up for open discussion. If you guys have any disagreements, write it down, and then we'll open up for discussion. You guys can bring that up. But yeah, let's get right into it. What do you guys think about that? I'll start with you, Lonnie. Lonnie, what's your thoughts? What's your thoughts? The topic. Roe versus Wade has been overturned. Do you agree does this set the country back, or is this pushing us forward for a better future? What do you think, Lonnie?
Well, I'm from Hawaii. I'll just say that, and I'm Native Hawaiian, so I feel like a lot of not Native people. I don't want to speak for all Native people, but I feel like giving the states their individual power on certain I don't want to say rights, but like giving states the decision on whether or not they want to have this or make abortion legal or illegal. I think that's good overall for like the state's perspective. As a government, as a government as a whole. But I don't. God, I feel it. But I don't necessarily think that using abortion as a narrative is a good way to go, if that makes sense. Because I'm still not. Because my views on abortion are very. I don't want to say controversial, because I was born and raised in a Mormon household. Like well knows my family is very conservative. So growing up, I was very pro-life. You don't have an abortion unless you're raped, sexually abused, in those kind of instances. But now that I'm older and I've met women who were not part of my faith growing up, who've had abortions, my view on the situation has changed. I don't want to say dramatically, but my view on abortion has changed. And I don't necessarily think that criminalizing abortion is the way to go, because women, because the friends that I have, you know, a lot of them are from American Samoa and Tonga and Fiji, where abortion is illegal. And my friends would tell me stories of when they were in middle school and high school, they would have these girls, you know, induce their own abortions, or, you know, like backdoor abortions or whatever you call it, because, you know, where they're from is illegal. And, you know, you can't, because if you get it done, you'll get penalized or get thrown in jail. And so the stories that I heard from these girls about women who have gone through that, you know, in this day and age, in a society where they're from, it's illegal, it kind of made me look at it a little bit differently and see that maybe, you know, criminalizing abortion isn't right. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but that's kind of how my view is at this moment. I don't know if it'll change, but yeah.
Okay. All right. I mean, just for the sake of the question, do you feel like are you in the middle, or do you think it's setting us back a little bit back, or this is pushing us a little bit forward, or maybe you're just undecided right now?
I think in a way it pushes us a little bit forward because it makes people be more vocal on what they want. I think a lot of times, and I think Americans in general, are very passive when it comes to politics. You know, we don't really care about things unless like they're huge political issues, or unless, you know, it's in the media. So I think so I think this is good in the sense that it pushes people to really think of what they value and
Okay.
and their true beliefs.
Okay. All right. No worries. All right. Thank you for sharing that, Lonnie. I know you're a little bit surprised I called you first, but thank you for going.
Yeah, I swear to
thank, you,
God.
thank you for going first. I'll pass it to you, Auntie. Auntie, what do you think, Auntie?
No, can we go to Matilda before me?
Okay, I'll come back. I'll come to you after Matilda. So go ahead, Matilda. What's your thoughts about this? Does this push us back, or does this set us forward? What do you think, Matilda?
I think it pushes America forward 100%. I'm sure everyone, like from the last podcast, I was almost pro-life versus pro-choice. I'm 100% pro-life in any circumstance. I'm raised in a good Christian family as well. But I feel like given the opportunity for each state, even though it's now banned, illegal, I don't think it's going to stick. I feel like it's made this set mark, fair enough for now. But I feel like once these states get the chance, it will become legal again, as we've seen in the press, how people are reacting to this. Like, I live in Ireland, and I was saying this isn't something we'd see. So it's hard to explain because you can't really say anything now without it getting taken in the wrong context. So I feel like Roe versus Wade being overturned, it does not set America back. Like, it's pushing it forward a lot. Like, people saying going back to bad times, it's not. With the unsafe abortions, I think, but I don't know what you call them, we just call them like at-home abortions. Even abortions in hospitals, they're not safe. No abortion is ever going to be classed as a safe abortion. You're physically getting a child removed from you. That is not safe. So I feel like in the coming years, we're going to see the proper impact of this. But for now, I feel like it's definitely given America the opportunity to reach out, have different opinions, get the correct votes, not just from the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court obviously ruled it, and now they've taken it back. But I think it's a good opportunity for America to get their says in what they actually want happen in their country for once. Because looking in on America, it seems very unorganized. No offense, guys, but it doesn't seem like it's in a good environment right now to be. I don't know how these protests are happening. Like, that's my opinion. I think it's a good thing.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Matilda. I see a comment from Too Wonderful. He said that watch the water. What do you do in a boat? You row. When you leave the boat and enter the water, you wade. watch the water. All right. Shout out to you too, wonderful man. Thank you for sharing. I'm gonna remember that analogy real quick. Um, but yeah, let me pass it to you, Auntie, to finish off with the ladies before I pass it to the men. So, what's your thoughts, Auntie? Does this push us back or push us forward?
I don't think the country is actually pushing anywhere right about now. It's like all you see is like all the negativity, like the shootings and this and that going on. I can't sit here and say that there's a positive thing that is going on right now that would even say, oh yeah, if we do this, it's going to push us forward, or if we do this, it's going to push us back. Now, my thing is, what I've been hearing is it's a religion thing. Like you're Christian and you came up from a house of Matilda, you came from a Christian, and Lani comes from a Mormon family. And then my understanding is, I believe three of them, don't quote me, but three of them on there were like Catholic, I believe, or something like that. And one of them wasn't, but it's a religion thing, right? That's going on right now. But my thing is, why do we always have to use women as an example? You can start by taking the homeless off the street to make an example or whatever. Or what is that? Have a set criteria, like, hey, you need to be, what is that? What is your reason for getting the abortion? What is this? What is that? Like, just like everything else, you got to apply for it. So if you don't take it away, but offer different ways of females to take accountability and control of what they got going on, cool. But you come directly for us, knowing that I'm pretty sure in your other podcasts, we are the nurturers, we are the, this, we are the motherhood, but why would you come and try to do that? That's why I'm like kind of in the middle, because just like how Tui and Lani said, some people use abortion as in, what is that, an easy way out. But that's just like everything else. You know what I'm saying? Like, they're like, oh, I'm going to go take a pill to feel better, or I'm going to go do this to feel better. But in order to get those medications, you have to have the certain criteria in order to pass or whatever. Even to burn, you got to have a medical card. You got to have X, Y, Z. So I guess I'm just kind of like frustrated in a sense that, is it religion that you're making this law on? You know what I mean? And no disrespect to anybody's culture, because it's not right that you would force your culture on somebody else that doesn't know the beliefs or doesn't know the raise up or whatever, and you're going to change the law for every female to come. And to Lani's comment, yes, it does happen in Samoa, where the girls give birth and for whatever reason, because they were raped or whatever, and then they throw the baby in the trash can, or, whatever, this and that. But it's illegal. They can't do it here. But in America, you have a choice. But now what they're trying to do is yank the choices away. And I feel some type of way. And my thing, why I had a question for Taniela is, Taniela, even though you live, Australia or New Zealand? Where do you live?
New Zealand.
Okay. But you do have, I don't want to assume, you do have family members that are in the States, right? And has a question ever passed your mind is, if they did get into a situation like that, how would you deal with it? Would you want your family member to have the opportunity to go to the doctor, to say yes, to say no, to fit the criteria in order to get it? Or is it just, you know what, have it. Just have it, keep it, remember everything that happened, no matter it traumatized you or whatever, just have it. That's my question when it's your turn. But yeah, I don't know, Will. I just feel like I'm just trying to focus. I know it's me, but this might sound like to people. But right now, this day and age, I just got to worry about me and mine. You know what I'm saying? And when it does come up to me and it does happen to me, I'll deal with it when I get there. But I have no say-so of back or forth, because we are struggling, and this shouldn't. Wrong point to push or go.
All right, no worries. All right. Thank you so much, Auntie. Appreciate that. Thank you for sharing. I pass it to you, Tui. Tui, what's your thoughts on tonight's discussion before passing to Felix?
I'm sorry, what? Okay, I'm sorry. I don't know if it's like a delay or something. Everyone keeps talking over each other. Anyway, so my stance, just like in my intro, I do not believe that abortion should be used for a form of birth control. If you're old enough to fuck, you are old enough to be responsible for condoms. There are 27 different kinds of contraception that you can use if you do not want to use condoms. Um, you can get checked at a clinic. There are several different ways to stop yourself from getting pregnant. As far as the overturning of Roe versus Wade, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with it. I mean, it all comes down, honestly, it all comes down to, are you registered to vote? Will this go on the ballot in your state the next time voting comes into play? If you, it gave each state the power to make it illegal, or in some cases, make it extremely difficult to get an abortion. Other states like Hawaii, which I live in, it didn't affect us at all because obviously abortion in Hawaii is legal. So if it's in your state legislature, yes. Or if it's in your state constitution, whatever's in your state constitution is what you ended up with this time around. But as far as abortion goes, my personal belief is that life begins at conception. So um, as soon as the egg is fertilized and it creates a life, I believe that it becomes a human being. Even though technically we are formed anus first, which makes us all assholes at one point. I still believe that we are human beings. Life begins at conception. So I don't believe in abortion, except for in extreme circumstances, rape, uh, sexual assault of any kind, molestation. If pregnancy results in that way, obviously, certain, I mean, whichever way they want to deal with it, but that's the only time I would be okay. Personally, with abortion being okay. Sorry, I was all over the place. I was getting my internet over here in Hawaii is like coconut Wi-Fi, and oh my god, let me tell you, it was a struggle just to get back on here. I'm sorry. I swear to God, I'm more poised. No, that's a lie. I'm not.
No worries, no worries. Tui, thank you so much for your thoughts and thank you for sharing. I see Too Wonderful. He shared another comment. He said Roe versus Wade was fabricated by a woman named Norma McCovey, who brought this up in Texas, who then became a born again Christian. All right, thank you for sharing that. And shout out to everybody in the live chat. And don't forget, I just posted the public link for the live show. So if you guys want to jump on, be part of the podcast, you guys can definitely jump on, be part of the conversation as well. Definitely will hear different perspectives added to the conversation. So thank you, ladies, for sharing your thoughts. Let me pass it to fellas. Fellas, I know you guys have your thoughts and you guys have time to listen to the ladies. But what's your thoughts about it? I'm gonna share. I'll pass it to you, Daniela, because I know Auntie asked you a question. So what's your thoughts about it? Does this set us back or does this push us forward? Go ahead, Daniela.
Yeah, so I agree in part with what Auntie sort of alluded to in the first part of her conversation, is that it doesn't necessarily do much in terms of pushing forward or pushing back. What the overturn of Roe v. Wade is, instead of a federal law, it's now up to the state to decide how they govern abortion, right? So it goes back to the state. It's not a ban. It's not an unban of abortion. It's essentially, and this is why I get frustrated when I listen to a lot of the left-leaning crowd. You're all for democracy. And now that the Supreme Court is giving you that power, then you cry in the street saying that essentially the Supreme Court is, the United States undemocratic and all of these nonsense that I hear. So that's a different issue. Roe v. Wade, back to the states, as it should be. The people should decide based on who they elect as governors and senators and whatever that process entails. That's my understanding of it. Now, in the case of abortion, there is no excuse, in my own belief, that abortion should be a choice. Because abortion, is the killing of a human being. Now, David has mentioned before that philosophically people need to be consistent. There's an uproar of children being mass murdered on the street, and yet we turn the other cheek when we're talking about abortion. So there's an even deeper question when we ask, how do we determine a human life and where does it begin? To me, it begins at conception. And if you're willing to stand and cry on the streets for kids being murdered in school, I find it highly inconsistent that you also support abortion if that's your stance. So the question was, what if one of your family members were raped, molested, incest? Now, when we talk about these situations, we're talking about 3 individual, 2 victims, 1 predator. And I am all for punishing whatever that punish may be, whether that's castration, whether that's on the chair for the predator. And I also have some frustration with the right. They're not doing much in terms of supporting women who are going through these situations, who have been raped, who have been sexually assaulted, involved in incest. As the right, if you're going to pass law in your state to ban abortion, you should also pass policies and laws that support women who are going through these traumatic events. So in terms of my stance, it's more biological and a bit of it in the psychology and of the whole decision. So I don't believe in abortion. I don't believe there is any excuse that renders it as an okay thing to be carried out, especially when we're talking about all these nuances, especially the extreme side of it. I think people who are willing to commit sexual assault and rape other women, they need to be punished, and they need to be punished to the highest degree. When we're talking about when the mother's life is threatened, I don't see that as abortion anymore. I see that as a completely different procedure, and it's a medical procedure that is to save either one of the lives that it's involved. And that is no longer abortion. Abortion is the choice. To save the life of the mother, where you necessarily cannot preserve one or the other, I no longer view that as abortion. So that's my stance.
No worries, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Daniela. And I appreciate that. And I would just want to add on, I totally agree. I think there must be a more severe punishment when it comes to rape and sexual assault, whether it's castration, whether it's the chair. I totally agree. I'll pass it to you, Devil. Devil, what do you think, Devil? What's your thoughts about it?
I think I'm going to be chiming in because you guys are making great points, but I'm trying to segment this down. I'm like an analytical person, and I like to take it in chunks. And it's going to differ based on how religious a person is, or if they're even religious at all. So how would you, like go have that discourse with like an atheist, morals versus someone who's religious? Because they now we have different standards that they have to meet to be consistent. So like I think there's a moral aspect, there's a religious aspect, there's an evolutionary aspect that I'd be happy to touch on, and then like Daniela mentioned, there's a philosophical aspect. So I'll just touch on each of these quickly. From a religious aspect, I think women that have abortions by choice and convenience, which is what a lot of them are, by doing that, they're saying that, what's convenient for me, if they're religious, they're saying that what's convenient for me in the short term is more important than God's will. And my plans for my life are more important than God's plans for what would have been my future child. And they're saying that freeing myself of the consequences of poor decisions made by myself and my partner is more important than the baby's beating heart in most cases, or in many cases, because most people don't find out they're pregnant until after a month and a half. So what scares me, because a lot of people even people on the left that are so pro-abortion, what scares me about them being so pro-abortion or pro-choice is that they don't realize that they're willing to bet their ticket into heaven that what they're doing is not murder, and they are going to show no remorse and ask no forgiveness until the day they die. I've even heard some say, if God sees this as murder, then heaven's not a place I'd want to be anyway, or something like that. And it's just kind of disgusting. And I grew up religious. I grew up Catholic, but my mom kind of strayed from the religion, but because she's really far left, and the church started preaching and even passing out things saying that being gay is wrong, and that's when she took a step back from the church. And I learned an important lesson from that, which was that what is said at the church isn't necessarily. There's a lot of human interest infused with what the church says. It used to be that the priest saying that what the king says is God's word to get you to obey the king, for the past thousands of years. So, with that little caveat, that's not a bet that I'd be willing to take. If I do end up, getting close to religion, I wouldn't make that bet. I wouldn't bet my daughter's ticket into heaven that what's convenient for us to do as a result of her bad decision is not murder. I would not bet her, however you want to view it. So, I think the reason why I am so in the middle ground is because of how I've strayed from religion. Like, if I had stayed a Catholic, then it'd be obvious what my opinion would be. But now I'm like, I don't know if I think that a life starts at conception or at a heartbeat or at sensitivity to pain. I would say whichever one of those comes first, other than conception. Like, if the sperm enters the egg, like the second later, at this point, I don't see that as like human life. But I am not 100% on that, because I am learning facts about this every day and very quickly, because it's been a hot topic. I'll just touch on one other thing: the evolutionary perspective. Does everyone here know what hypergamy is? Before I hit on this, because I don't want people to.
No, I don't know.
Okay, I'll just give it.
I deal with that every day. Of course, I know what hypergamy is.
Okay, so hypergamy is a term thrown around first among evolutionary biologists, and that is, it's like a female of any species' tendency to seek out the male with the highest status, or whatever helps her and her offspring be better off in the long run. So in humans, it's like ability to protect and provide. And it's a woman's tendency to seek out the male with the most, that brings the most of that to the table. So modern times, that would translate to, it's in its rawest form, you could call it gold digging. So like the woman that marries a man, like a lot of my friends, half of my white friends growing up, and I grew up in the suburbs, had a dad that was really good with his hands, worked at Home Depot, fixed the house, fixed the car all the time. And then they had a stepdad that worked at US Bank in was like making a lot more money. And what in the manosphere we would say is that she acted on her hypergamous instincts. Like, she saw an opportunity to kind of trade up and waited for an opportunity to do that. And I know that sounds like super opportunistic, but like, there's a lot of nuance. They might have had a very bad argument and she waited until they had a terrible argument and whatever. But it's that's what it is. It's a woman's tendency to always be on the lookout for a better potential mate based on what women want biologically. So anyways, what they say in the manosphere is that abortion is the ultimate form of hypergamy, a woman's ability to end a man's genetic bloodline just based on convenience or whatever else. And the argument behind that is, like, 20-year-old gets pregnant by 20-year-old freshman in college, might abort his baby, gets flown out by some celebrity or rapper or athlete, gets knocked up on accident. Is she more or less likely to abort that baby?
All right.
Because
Less.
So
Devil,
yeah, I'm over time. So that's my that's my speaking
I
on the
did have
evolutionary aspect.
I did have one thing to add to.
thank you, Devil.
Yeah,
Pass it. Go ahead, Vita. It's your time. Pass. Go
I
ahead.
did.
Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
did have one thing to add to Devils. He mentioned hypergamy. Obviously, that's just when women choose the best for their offspring. I disagree that it's similar to gold digging. I would say gold digging is literally just to benefit the woman to just find someone who has a lot of money that they can spend on themselves. Hypergamy would have to do with stability, security, and survival when the woman is looking for the best father to protect and stabilize the family, whether that be wealth, strength, physicality, etc., etc. So I disagree on that. I don't think hypergamy and gold digging are the same.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Vita. It's your time. And share your thoughts on the topic. Go ahead, Vita.
As far as Roy versus Raid, I don't think it's setting us back. I think it's just the democracy's coming back, basically, how it's supposed to. Obviously, it's been here for a while, but it hasn't been utilized its best because the people have forgotten to actually vote, and they only tend to vote every 4 years when the president is on the chopping block. Now they're paying it a little bit more attention due to a lot of things are going on, whether it be inflation and abortion, and that's why I would say it's not taking it back. As far as a step forward, no, this is how it's always should have been. It just took a while to get here. I would say it's right in the middle. I think it could be a step back if I did read an article and saw a few YouTube videos that certain states that did decide to ban abortion, they will also ban their own residents at I would say Utah citizens would not be able to go to California to get an abortion, despite my belief that abortion is wrong and should not be used as birth control. I would say that would be wrong to try to punish someone who isn't breaking the law in that certain state and go into another state where it is legal to get an abortion and go from there.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing that, Vita. Appreciate that. Yeah, I just see there's a lot of people in the live chat. Thank you so much for everybody in the live chat. I always appreciate you guys. I see Bobino. Bobino said that human being is a human being. That's true, but I think what's more important is a parent psychologically or financially able to support a baby because sex is natural. Thank you for sharing that. I see KB93 for the first time on the show. Shout out to you. And he said that God isn't even pro-life. KP93, thank you for sharing your thoughts. Appreciate you on the live chat. I see Matoko Savage, Superstition, Intuition. Hi, my name is Savage. Ali Savage, man. Thank you for watching, be part of the Tonight Show, man. Always appreciate you being part of the podcast. And definitely check out his podcast, Intuition, Superstition, Intuition, number one Polynesian Pacific Islander podcast in the universe. And I see Too Wonderful. He showed that part of the reason why many folks are upset with this ruling is that the federal government will not be funding states for these procedures. Thank you so much, everybody out there. David Level said, "King Tui is you're my superhero." All right, shout out to you, man. Thank you, David Level. First time seeing you on the live chat. Appreciate you being part of the podcast tonight, watching real quick, and appreciate everybody real quick. But to all my guests, real quick, I'm gonna open it up for open discussion. Obviously, you guys saw a lot of you guys had different opinions, different opinions about certain things about this topic. I wanted to open up the floor. If you guys have something you want to reply to, or something that you disagreed with somebody, this is your chance to reply to anybody on the panel before I open up the next question for the podcast. Anybody want to go? Just go ahead.
Oh, I just wanted to say something. I noticed, I don't know who it was. I think it was like different people, but I think some people were pointing out how they believe like I think it was Matilda, but she was saying how she thought that because of how some states like Utah or states that already have laws where it is illegal to have abortions, they're gonna change it because of the narrative of the people. I don't, as a Mormon or as a Mormon who's not active in the church anymore, but who still calls herself a Mormon, that's not gonna happen. Because I feel like very conservative states like Utah, the South, like Texas, um, Kentucky, all those South states, they're not gonna change their stance on it. Which, in my opinion, I don't think they should because that's their right, as you know, that's the whole reason why Roe versus Wade was overturned, was so that states can have control over whether or not they will legalize or illegalize abortions. You know, but I don't think the state I don't think the states that already have illegalized abortion will have it overturned, because they're very strict that way. Yeah,
Okay.
that's all.
No worries. Matilda, did you want to respond to Lonnie?
Yeah, I didn't mean, I think I should have clarified. I didn't mean as in like Texas and everything. I meant as in like the states that we've seen have just been introduced to banning abortion. I feel like because I've seen so much on the news, especially in Ireland, we've seen so much of what's coming from this, like protests, riots, whatever you want to call them. I feel like I've seen something on the news that the Supreme Court aren't coming back on their word, but they're seeing what's going on and like the effects this is having. I don't know, but with the, I don't know who said it, I think the religion aspect, I'm Catholic, I'm a practicing Catholic, so like mass every Sunday, whatever comes under practicing Catholic. But I wouldn't say because I'm Catholic I'm pro-life, because I'm a teen, and when I was younger I was still going to mass and being, you know, pro-choice. I was thinking it was okay. Like we all have that stepping stone. But yeah, I feel like for a practicing Catholic, I feel like maybe Devil might agree with me on this, because I know his family used to be practicing. You cannot be a practicing Catholic and be pro-choice. Like it's you wouldn't class yourself as a practicing Catholic. But yeah, I feel like religion may have an aspect in the Supreme Court. More or less of them are Catholic, but I think that even people like you have natural law and you have the Catholic commandments, but natural law is, you know, thou shalt not, like you won't kill anyone, you won't steal, you won't do this. So for me, even natural law is, I don't think anyone should kill their unborn baby, no matter the circumstance. So that's my take on it.
All right, no worries. Thank you for sharing, Matilda. Anybody else want to add on? Go ahead, Devil.
I do.
Oh,
Go ahead, Tui.
No, go
Oh,
ahead.
no.
Go ahead.
I don't think I answered the question originally. So I think it's pushing us forward because now the states have the freedom to draw the line where they want to, you know, as to where life begins, and it starts a conversation that should have never been ended in the first place. Like I hear a lot of talk that we're taking something away from someone, when really, you know, the right to life of an unborn fetus was taken away by the original decision anyways. All we're taking away is, you know, the unfortunate results of impulsive or bad decisions. And again, this is when I say things like that, when I make general statements, I am not including things like grape. We say that on YouTube instead of the R word for the algorithm. I'm not including grape and incest, because those are very, very rare when it comes to that, and those should be dealt with in an entirely different manner, in a different conversation. So,
okay. All right, thank you, Devil. Pass it to Tui. I know you wanted to add on. Go ahead, Tui.
Yeah, I agree with Big D. I think Big D is a better name for you than Devil.
you might have to change it. Have we met? No, I'm just kidding.
But no, I agree. I think grape and incest are a very small percentage of abortion, of the amount of abortions that happen in the U.S. I mean, that number can still be skewed, but you know, as far as percentages go, very small. I do want to say that what I did say about me when oh my goodness, I swear to God, I know what I'm saying. As far as my stance goes, it had nothing to do with God or religion. It's from a human rights standpoint, as I do believe that life begins at conception. But if you do put God in front of it, I understand. And I'm not combating you, Matilda. Do you live in the US?
No, I live in Ireland, hence the sun rising at 10 past 5 and 10 to 6 in the morning.
Well, I don't know. You could live in Hawaii because the sun's still up over here too. Hey. But
So,
yeah,
yeah, no,
like,
I'm Irish.
I've known my fair share of Catholics, mostly when I lived in Chicago, and their stance was pretty hard on contraception and abortion. So I totally understand. I personally
Yeah.
believe that we should totally temporarily sterilize the world population until you can prove that you can have a child. But that's just me.
All right,
That's
no
pretty
worries.
wild.
I
That's
agree with
pretty
her. I
wild.
totally agree with her. I agree with
Yeah.
you.
Can I say something just quickly? It's
All
fine.
Wait,
right,
Matilda,
to add
go ahead.
oh,
Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Vita, and I'll come back to you. I'll come back to you, Matilda. Go ahead,
okay.
Vita.
To add to comment about, I believe it's less than 1% of abortions
Yeah.
it are like due to rape and incest and all that good jazz. So that's even a small percentage. A lot of people tend to go towards those extreme possibilities, but the probability of most women going forward about abortions for that reason is very low. You know, chances are, going back to what Tanella said, rape and incest are the only times where we punish the victim. That victim would be the child. Usually we just punish the perpetrator, which would be the father, or whatever strange situation be the one who took advantage of that individual. And I think that speaks volume on how difficult and complex this topic can be. But another thing that I've noticed that people have not failed to bring up is the father's decision. Because obviously in consensual sex, it takes two to tango. And sadly, the father has no say. There's been obviously a few situations when he wants the child, but because she decided she didn't want it, there's nothing much he can do. And that brings up another hot take for me. Obviously, there still be states that will allow abortion to happen. Obviously, that's up to the states that can do that. If that were to happen, I do believe it's time for some more equality, and it would be time for a financial abortion. Financial abortion being the father of the child, fetus, parasite, whatever you want to call it, gets to make his own decision with his wallet and opt out of child support. Similar to how women, it's her choice, it's her body, it would be his wallet, his choice. Granted, that is a pretty extreme case, if mostly for the states that do decide to keep abortion legal. But I think if they're really trying to push equality and equity, that would be a good start.
I'm telling you, man, world sterilization, support me. Tweet for president 2024.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
All right. Thank you for sharing that, Vita. Matilda, I know you wanted to say something. Go ahead, Matilda.
Yeah, it was just on the. I think Tui said the contraceptive, maybe Catholic. I'm Catholic. I wouldn't personally, you know, yeah. But if it's going to make people like completely forget I'm Catholic, like completely get religion, like let's pretend that everyone told you I was Catholic. It's like if boys using condoms, girls using contraceptives could prevent this, then I'm all for it. I know it's more young people nowadays. I know, especially within my age range. Like I know it's like 16 to 20-year-olds or something. The statistics were that they just have sex, get an abortion, have sex, get an abortion. And I feel like if they were using a contraceptive, I'm 100% for it. Like I would give you them myself. You know, like I feel like I would hand you them. Like I think it would be an important thing if they got brought out a lot more and maybe taught how to use them. Because I know you said 27 contraceptives. I didn't even know that. I thought there was like 3, and maybe they'd have more knowledge of this.
Maybe 3 for men, but for women, there's definitely up towards the 27.
Yeah, I know you had. I just thought there was like the pill and then that wee thing that you can get there. I'm not very clued up in contraceptives, as you can tell. And maybe that's a good thing.
Worries,
I don't know.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for sharing your thoughts real quick, and shout out to everybody in the live chat. I see a lot of you guys talking in the live chat. Whether you agree or disagree, I appreciate you and your feedback on the live chat. Don't forget, I do have the public link on the YouTube live chat. So if you're watching this right now, if you have something to say, you want to come on. I know some of you guys disagree with some of the things from our panel, and you want to be part of the conversation and talk directly to that person. I highly encourage you to be part of the podcast and click on the public link on the YouTube live chat. And thank you so much. Don't forget to like and subscribe real quick. But let me bring up the next topic that's related to the topic. So the next topic I want to ask you guys real quick. I want to hear your thoughts about it. I think Auntie brought it up real quick. There's a big debate right now where a lot of women are saying, especially the ones who are pro-choice, that the government is interfering with their right. They have bodily autonomy to, if it's their choice to decide to kill the fetus, their babies. And obviously, there's a lot of people out there saying, you know what, some of the people who are agree with abortion, a lot of them come from religious backgrounds. So a lot of them are saying, why are you enforcing your religious beliefs against all people? So you're kind of infringing on our right, infringing in our personal life, and especially for women, for the personal autonomy. But there are also a lot of people out there from the opposite perspective. They're saying it has nothing to do with religious right. It's just a more of a morality thing. Is it right or is it wrong? So you don't need a religion to know if something is right or wrong. And what they're saying is killing a baby, killing a human being is wrong. And what they're saying is it doesn't nobody has a right to kill a human being, even if it's their own mother. So this is the different perspectives that I hear from both sides. I want to hear your thoughts real quick. Do you guys believe and agree? Do women have the right? Do women have the right to get an abortion and to kill their own fetus and their own living baby? Do you think that is it the government does the government is it the morality is it the government's responsibility to step in, or the state, because the Roe versus Wade has been overturned. The state has the power now. Is it the state's responsibility to step in if we have elected leaders knowing, what, even though a lot of people may think this way, but this is the right thing to do, even if a lot of people are against it, and it's in the state's authority to make the best decision for the entire society, even if there's pushback and people that disagree. So that's the question I'm gonna ask you guys. Do you think this is the right that women should have? Do you think the government is infringing their power into people's lives? Is it a matter of right or wrong, morality, religion? I want to hear you guys' thoughts about this. So I want to start off with the fellas, and I started with the women before. Let me start off with the fellas real quick. What do you guys think? Do women have the right to bodily autonomy to kill their baby, and is it the state's responsibility to step in and apply this to society to make this a better society for a whole? I'll start with you, Daniela. What do you think, Daniela? Do women have the right to do this? And is the government overstepping their boundary as part of their function as the local government? What do you think, Daniela?
I think people who argue that point are confused with what's going on. Yes, you have a right to your body. You exercise that right to your body by engaging in sex. You don't have the right to the consequences of your action, especially when it involves a separate human being. This is why I get a lot of disagreement with, is that people are screaming, I should have rights to bodily autonomy. Yes. But you should also understand that your action has consequences. If you decide to have consensual sex, and let's leave rape out of the picture, and I will use that word because it's a heinous act, and fuck the algo, people who commit who commit rape and incest should be castrated or killed. That's my stance on it. And I'm not going to conform and pivot and pander to these new terms or whatever it is. But when we're talking about rights, yes, you have the right. Your right to choose whether you have sex or not. But that does not grant you the right to also kill another human being when you know full well that you have a 50% chance of either ending with a pregnancy or not. This is now a human being. There are people who argue that this is just a clump of cell, it's a tumor, should the government force you to, it's equivalent to an organ. Here's the difference. This clump of cell is the only cell that will bring upon life. It's the only one. And it takes two. It takes the sperm and the egg in order for it to form and fertilize to become a human being. So it's no longer bodily autonomy when there is a child involved. This is a different human being. So when do we argue the stance of, what about the rights of the human being that body is being ripped apart? And if you look at the surgical way of abortion, it is gruesome. So how can people stand in the streets and argue it's horrendous to watch kids get mowed down with guns and whatnot, but then look at abortion and how it's been carried out and say, oh, I have the rights to do that. I can rip a young, unborn child limb from limb, crush its brain, suck it out, and say that that's all right. Yep. Moral obligation, yay. So that's my stance on it.
All right, no worries. No worries. Thank you so much, Daniela. Appreciate that. Let me pass it. And shout out to my guests, Savage and Fatty. Thank you for jumping on as public guests. I'll definitely get back to you guys after I get around the whole panel to add your thoughts real quick. But go ahead, Devil. I'm sorry, Vita. I know you've raised your hand, Vita. Go ahead, Vita. What's your thoughts about it?
Yeah, just to go off what.
Yeah,
just to go off what Daniela said, just regarding the bodily autonomy, I believe he hit the right on the head, hit the nail on the head, and then a lot of the other sides, I guess, response to that is, well, we may not be okay with abortion, but we want the woman to be able to have that choice and that option, and that's where I would have to disagree, because they had that choice on who they decided to sleep with, whether or not it was unprotected, whether or not they were going to have safe sex, et cetera, et cetera. And clearly, if now they have to contemplate whether they're going to have abortion, they didn't make any of the right decisions. And I would agree with Daniela on that. And then as far as, I'm sorry, what was the question again?
The women have the right to abortion, and does a government, does a state have the right also to step in and to apply this?
Okay. Sadly, the state or the government, they've been involved in families for too long, whether it be welfare, single motherhood, housing, et cetera, and clearly it's not working. It's causing more conflict. It's destroying families. It's keeping men and women separate. I believe the solution is to realize that men and women need to be together, because we're stronger together rather than apart. Especially when it comes to families, two-parent households are always going to, or not always, but most generally, they do better than one-parent households. And I think women, they have a right to bodily autonomy, but that choice was on the decision on who they decided to stick with, not on the baby, the fetus, the parasite, or whatever they would like to call it. And I think another thing that people have still forgotten is it was the father also helped create that life, and he should also have a say on what the well-being of the father, what the well-being of the child is too.
All right, no worries. Thank you, Vita. And Daniela, I know you wanted to add on real quick. If you can make it real quick before I pass it to Devil. And honestly, I'll come right to you once I'm done with the fellas. I got you. Daniela, want to add on real quick before I give it to Devil? Daniela?
Yeah. The government should put at least some policies or legislators in place for whoever the father is. I think when we talk about accountability for women, we should also take into account accountability for men. If you're going to be a deadbeat, your ass needs to be charged. Whatever it is, whatever that government policy is or whatnot, that needs to be pushed. Because a child still deserves to have two parents. And if you, as a man, if you're going to commit sex, you need to understand that you have a obligation to the child if that's the end result, and it deserves all the provisions until it is an adult. So as much as we harp on about women in this case, I think the government, other than child support and whatnot, there should be some add-on to it, not necessarily financial, but the government should enable men to go into studies or get into certain career pathways to be able to complete their responsibility to that child. Not just child support, but there should be also a big support on men to at least pursue a different lifestyle so that they may be able to cater to that responsibility. And if they fail, they should be put in jail. That's what I think.
All right. Thank you, Daniela. Appreciate that. Thank you for adding on. That's a good point. I'll pass it to Devil. Devil, do women have the right to it? Do they have the right to abortion? And is it okay? Is it a government responsibility to step in on this case?
You know, I've never been a fan of giving governments power in general as a general philosophical belief. But since they have so much, I think it could be used for good in that aspect, like in preventing the loss of what's perceived to be human life to make up for all the human life they're responsible for destroying. Um, I wanted to share before anyone gets on, like one of the most common excuses for abortion and the reasoning behind it is well, we're avoiding babies being born into poverty, and one stat I wanted to bring, because I can't be on a show and not drop at least one statistic, is single women who earn $47,000 plus a year abort 32% of their babies. Single women making $11,670 a year or less abort 8.6% of their babies. So I don't know why I've heard so much that it's because of poverty or something. And what that statistic tells me is that stuff's being made up to kill fetuses or unborn children out of convenience. Like they're just like, well, maybe it's this, and they don't do any research, and then they kill it, and that's perfectly fine for them. So honestly, I think there are a lot of aspects of this issue that are just pure evil, and completely absent of any like research.
Okay. All right.
Yeah,
Thank you,
yeah.
Devil. Thank you for sharing that. And let me thank you, fellas, for sharing a point. Let me pass it to the ladies real quick. I know, Auntie, you wanted to go. You had a lot of things to say. So go ahead, Auntie. How are you?
Well, I wouldn't necessarily say a lot of things to say. I just have a question. Like, how is it that the world, or whether it be the Supreme Court or the state or whatever, have a say so in anything as the individual is doing in their journey? Okay. The second thing is, I've heard a lot of comments as in, oh, maybe you'll think twice about having sex, or maybe you'll think, before you go ahead and conceive, whatever that whole, are you going to tell them how to fuck too? You know what I'm saying? Like, my thing is, I know that there has to be rules in place in order to follow and have structure. And excuse my language, but I feel like kids are even thinking of, doing that or whatever. But it's not that, how should I say it? It has to start from home. And if you teach your children right, or you invest the time with your children, then that will start a path of them understanding when, how, and be able to make the right decision for themselves. It's just blowing my mind is a state can't put things in order for a female to make a choice for themselves. You have to apply for a credit card. You have to apply for food stamps. You have to apply for housing. You have to apply, like, everything you have to apply for. So just let the female choose how it is, and if they pass the criteria or whatever, however it is, then so be it. And my next question to the whole panel, has anybody spoken to somebody that had an abortion? Has anybody known of somebody of abortion? And what was your thoughts after speaking to them?
Okay. All right. Take that thought real quick for everybody out there. We'll definitely come back around.
Thank you, sir.
So no worries. Thank you. Yeah, we'll definitely come back to you guys, and once again, everybody response and bring up those questions that Auntie brought up. Thank you so much for bringing that up, Auntie. I'll pass it to you, Lonnie. Lonnie, what do you think?
Do I think women have a right to their body? Yes. Do I think that right includes them deciding whether or not they can kill their fetus? No. I feel like that's just my personal belief growing up in the household that I was raised. I know you said we can talk about it later, but I think this has to do with your other question about is the government infringing upon like, is this Roe versus Wade like a situation where the government is infringing upon their belief system on us? I think what people need to remember is that the whole thing with Roe versus Wade is the fact that when it was before they overturned it, the federal government was putting money into things like Planned Parenthood, where the government, i.e., us taxpayers, were giving our tax money for things like abortion. So we were paying for it. So the whole thing with Roe versus Wade being overturned is the fact that now the states have, can say, hey, I don't want to pay for this. So if I don't want it in my state, I'm not going to pay for it. You know what I mean? And I think that kind of goes into Auntie's thing about whether or not, or why does the government even have a say in these issues like this? Well, because the government has been the one that's been paying for it. That's what the bottom line is. And so now with this whole thing being overturned, instead of the federal government paying for it, now they're telling the states, hey, if you want to do this, then you pay for it. And there's a lot of states like Utah, I'm going to say Utah because I'm Mormon, they're like, we ain't paying for that crap. Like, we don't believe in it, we're not paying for it. Which is, to me, in my opinion, it's on them. Like, that's their decision. But yeah, at the end of the day, does a woman have a right to their body? Yes, but at the same time, as a woman who's had a child out of wedlock, you also have you don't have to have sex. You know what I mean? Like, it's like just jump off. I don't know. Like, I don't know what else to say, but it's not like, if you can, like what I was told growing up, if you can lie down and have it or do it, you can stand up and take care of it, and that's but that's just me.
Okay. All right. No worries. Thank you, Lonnie. Thank you for sharing that. I've been passing you to Tui. Tui, what do you think? Do women have the right? Is this their intrinsic right that they're born with to have the right to kill their own babies? And is it okay for the government to take on the responsibility to enforce this in society? What do you think, Tui?
I'm so sorry. Are you talking to me?
Yes.
My mom totally distracted me. She came in here with dragon fruit, and we all know, like, I love dragon fruit. I'm sorry, guys. Say that again one more time.
Do you think the women have the right to abortion? Is that their God-given right they were born with as a human being?
I mean, if we're gonna say that God is real and he's not a fictional character out of a Disney book, then yes, okay. But I think not just women, but people have the right to their own bodies. I do not believe that some fat, old, balding white men have the right to tell anyone what to do with their body. On that note, it's because I do believe in things like assisted suicide. Oh my gosh, I don't know if I can say that on here, but I believe in assisted unaliving yourself if that's the case of what you want to do. I also don't believe in the death penalty. Nobody has that right either. Like I said, human rights, not government or God-given rights. So.
Okay. All right. No worries. Thank you for sharing that, Tui. And thank you for everybody in the live chat. I appreciate all you guys on the live chat. And I'm gonna pass it on to my public guest. Thank you guys for jumping on. Shout out to you, Savage and Fatty. Savage, what's your thoughts, man? Thank you for jumping on for tonight's podcast. And what's your thoughts about the discussion? And right now we're talking about, do women have the right? Is it their intrinsic right to kill their own child? What's your thoughts, Savage? Go ahead.
Well, first, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, first, Will, thank you for giving me the platform to speak, and then of course, second, shout out to everyone on the panel. Man, I'll be honest with you, I don't have an answer to that, but I do support our women, and me as a man I have no experience as being a woman, so I want to state that clearly first. Jumping into statistics right now, I saw something earlier about 1%, less than 1% is incest and rape, and then 99% was consensual. And then, of course, right now with the recent studies, I live in Nevada, right? So top 10 states right now in America, Nevada's at 8. I've lived in Nevada for about a good amount of my life. I've lived in California and Florida, 3 states that are in the top 10. And right now, I believe in California, it is 1 of every 3 women has contemplated since 2008. Since 2008, 1 out of every 3 women has contemplated or faced the decision of aborting. And that means with Lani, Galepe, and Tui, they faced that. I'm not saying them specifically, but the 3 women in here, 1 of them has already contemplated or has faced that decision, and it's going to double in the next 5 years. That fucking sucks. You know what I'm saying? I don't have an answer to the question because on a scale from 1 to 10, this has got to be one of the toughest, if not the toughest subject to speak in the modern day world, especially here in America. The only thing I can offer, besides prayers and best wishes is that if we don't teach the kids at home, if we don't, Kalepe was highlighting it. If we don't teach the kids at home, and Will, you brought it up many times about vetting, right? Vetting good partners, being in good situations where you won't have to face these kind of situations because, speaking as a Pacific Islander in America, it's not a big subject or an issue in the PI community. We really don't talk about this in our circles, in our groups at home, generally. I'm not saying nobody is. I'm saying specifically and generally, it's not a big topic. So when addressing this as a general crowd, it's really, really tough. But I do want to say, if I'm going to make a suggestion, teach it in the schools. You already teach sex, violence, and drugs. That's sports, right? That's science, of course, and anything else, English and history. Then if that's the case, teach the kids so that they make better decisions about how this abortion is going to work in the future. Because my daughters, my sons, they're going to come across that situation according to the statistics. And Will, you know me better than anybody as far as being on this podcast. I don't like statistics. Fuck them. You know what I'm saying? But right now, in the time and climate we're in, statistics seem to be the only thing keeping us all on track. You know what I'm saying? So in a subject like this, I honestly don't have an answer. But I only pray that we find a solution. So that's it.
No worries. Yeah, thank you, Savage. Always appreciate you being on the podcast. Thank you for sharing, Toko. And it's always a good day when Savage likes to throw out stats. It's always a good day. All right, thank you, Savage. Pass it to you, Fatty. Fatty, what do you think, man? What's your thoughts on the topic? And of course, do you think that women have the right to abortion, to kill their child? What do you think, Fatty?
I think I don't like your wording. Is a fetus, is not a child. don't push me already.
Maybe.
But once again, thanks for having me. By the way, Will. Sorry for not being here sooner, but I had the place to go. Talking about this, I think women should do what they want to do. If you are pro-life, have your kid. If you are pro-choice, abort your kid. I think that way everyone does what they want to do. I don't have to care about your God. You don't have to care about my lack of morals, and everything is done. And when you talk about taxes, a lot of people don't support the war, but they pay taxes for the defense. A lot of people don't support a lot of policies, but they still pay their taxes, and they don't have the right to pick and choose where they want to put their money. So this is another one. Sorry. In one thing, you are going to get what you want. In others, you're not going to get what you want. So for me, it's very easy. I understand, for example, what I think is Vital was saying on the chat. Women right now are feeling the same way men felt through history. Men never had a choice if they wanted to be parents or not. So a lot of guys was forced to be fathers without their consent. And I think that's better for everyone to make sure that they are able to do whatever they want to do. I don't want I don't want to see the Republican senator that is a staunch pro-lifer telling her mistress, the secretary, that now she is having a kid and now he's against what he preached. I think that most of people that are pro-life in certain situations would think twice about that that firm stance. So I think we should leave other people alone, to be honest. I think a lot of this conversation comes across about religion, about what that we think is moral or not. We already talked about the death penalty. We already talked about a lot of things that I might not consider moral, but I understand that they happen for a reason. So I think we should let this open, so women that are pro-life do what they want to do, and women that are pro-choice do what they want to do.
Okay. All right. No worries, Fatty. Thank you for sharing it. I always appreciate having you on tonight's show. I want to open up real quick of a discussion, open discussion. Obviously, everybody had different takes, different opinions on the topic. Anybody that wanted to respond? Did somebody said that you disagree? Go ahead.
I disagree with Fatty as far as the women who have pro-choice, let them have that choice. I think regardless of whether it's pro-choice or not, fathers need to be a part of that decision on what happens to their baby. It's just has to happen because that father took a part in the conception, and it wouldn't be fair or equal to just to not have his say on what happens to the child.
Can I reply? Can I reply? Somebody else is messed up. Yeah, I think it's Vital. I agree with you, not on the point of the kid being born. If the woman wants the kid being born, she should have the right to have the kid. I think the government should have a side policy where the man can opt out, like the woman. She can abort till the 6th month. I can opt out till the 6th month if I want to be a father or not. I think that's a viable for both sides. I'm not going to be the one that is going to tell Tui or Kalepe or, oh, you shouldn't have the kid because I don't want to have the kid. You should have the kid, but I should have the right to opt out too if I don't want to be a parent. And I know that's not going to happen because that will cost a lot of money to the government. Because if I'm not paying child support, the government is paying child support. So I think that would be fair, but unfortunately,
I agree. I think it's a low probability that would happen because I've already brought it up with a few friends of mine. They've always been like, well, couldn't the guy just wrap it up or just pick better? And I'm like, some people say the same thing to women, and you
could say the same
that.
thing to women. Yeah, close
exactly,
your legs.
Exactly, and it's like it's interesting that they do that with the man. Oh, go ahead, man.
But I don't
No, I'm with, what's your name? I'm sorry, Fatty. It's just what I said earlier before is, who are we? You know what I mean? If it is a religious thing, since everybody wants to, I shouldn't say everybody. If it is a religious thing, isn't it thou shalt not judge? So, you know what I'm saying? Like, if a person, exactly what Fatty said, if they want to go and handle that for whatever reason, then that's their choice. Is it going to make you lose sleep over it? Is it going to put money in your account if this particular person goes ahead? Are you going to go comfort them? Are you going to, you know what I'm saying? Like, it just kind of like put rules in place, structure to push the world forward instead of pointing or trying to add more negativity. Because the female is going to get mad. They're going to pump up. And then when you mess with a female, all the guys on this panel know, tick, 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 boom. And then what? You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't want to play with females, especially when you tell them, oh, you can't do this with your body. You can't do this. Like, huh? Like, what? So, yeah, I went Fatty. Like, let people be them and just be happy.
I just want to add on. Yeah, I just want to add on to that point, which is what I'm seeing being confused. There are states who have protected your right for abortions. There are states who put in trigger laws to, as soon as the Roe v. Wade has overturned, abortion is banned. You have the choice whether you want to be in a community that supports that choice to have an abortion or not. And people will like to argue, oh, but I can't just move state. Well, the full responsibility is still on you. If you want to live in a community that supports your choice, you have the opportunity to do so. The resources and the means are a different issue, but you have states that still legalize abortion and have put laws in place to protect it for its residents and citizens. So this whole thing where people are confusing ban abortion, no, it's not. There are states who still support your decision as a woman if that's what you align with and what your idea. And I don't even, religion is fickle in the sense of justifying this decision, and whether that is the case with Supreme Court or not, I look at it from a point and perspective of, I have seen and I have spoken with women and fathers of aborted children. And it's, I can confidently say over the last 7 years of that conversation, 98% of those people have regretted deeply their decision to do so. And not only that, the men are still affected, that they did not have a chance. By the way, here in New Zealand, it is up to 20 weeks and no one can interfere with your decision to have an abortion. You can abort up to the last minute. But after 20 weeks, there's medical requirements. There needs to be consensus between two doctors and all of these things. But you can abort it out up to the last minute before it's even birthed. And I disagree with that.
I disagree with that.
I disagree with it, not from religion. Fuck religion. I have seen what the procedure looked like. And whether I'm religion or not, I can tell you that it is the same feeling that I get when I watch on the media children laying motionless in the street with no life at all. It is the same feeling that I get from seeing that. There's no difference.
Daniela, I wanted to respond to Fatty as well. I actually disagree because I think we're missing the forest for the trees. So the question is, where do you draw the line on what life is, and is it murder? So when you say, well, there's a lot of women affected by this, like 30% of women, like 80% of women, when they look back on our society in a time where medical equipment advances 200 years forward, and they say, they were murdering kids because 80% of women wanted to, or murdering the unborn because 80% of women wanted to, or like it's gonna hold zero water. And again, you're gonna have that conversation with God the instant you die if you're religious, long before people look back at our time and see the lunacy of what's going on. If we can draw the line where we decide what human life is, some say conception, some say 8 weeks. But once you get past like response to pain, response to the mother's voice, having its own blood type, like then that's when you lose me. I'm somewhere in between contraception and a heartbeat, sensitivity to pain, etc. So I think we need to. I think it's 8 weeks for a heartbeat. There's a range, obviously, on how quickly it. I think it's like 6 to 8 weeks. I want to say.
8 weeks.
And again, like once we've drawn that line, then I'm all for having the conversation about how many people it affects. But I think if we want to do what is more effective from a religious and moral standpoint, I think we should allocate all this energy and rage towards making sure the least amount of women possible are put in this situation. So, and I don't think you do that by completely removing shame from a society and, having, okay, this is a completely different topic, but having, trans people reading storybooks to our elementary schools, kids in bikinis. And yes, that's happened. So I think that we set ourselves up for this. We remove shame. We gave women we incentivized women the power to remove men from the households and said, yeah, you can have this welfare, you can have the Section 8, but the man can't live with you. So now when she's in an argument with her man, she has an incentive to break that contract, quite literally. And we're surprised when fatherlessness spikes to 72% in the Black community, because they're always the canary in the coal mine where things get and happen first. So I think we set ourselves up, and the chickens are kind of coming home to roost now that we've removed shame. We've removed fathers from the mate selection process. We've removed them from the household largely. We've empowered women to use their sexuality as they please, and this is one of the major consequences of that. Now we have to decide what's life, and how many, I think it's 30 plus million Black fetuses have been aborted. That's 5 Holocausts of Jews.
David, I have no problem with that. I have no problem with that. The thing that how I usually delineate my thought process. As long as people are consistent, I'm okay with it. Even if you are defending something that I don't agree with. My thing, and I already talked with Will and Nathaniel, I remember this, is that people that say they are pro-life, they are not consistent. They don't believe in bans when it comes to guns, but they believe in bans when it comes to abortions. So I can go to another state, pick up a gun, and come back to my state, and you don't want ban on guns because of that. But now the same happens with abortions, and it's fine for me to go to the state abroad to get an abortion. That doesn't make sense. Yeah. You say that you are pro-life. Okay, what about the 4% of people that are on death row that are going to be killed without being? They are innocent. Yeah. We know.
Well,
it's not consistent to me.
Yeah, I wouldn't agree with that, but I would agree that they're not consistent in that they have their mistresses get abortions. Like whenever one of those senators gets, cheats or is unfaithful, or even is single and gets the wrong woman pregnant,
or their kids, for example, or their kids. Yeah. It happens a lot.
But the gun thing, I think, is different. But we don't have to have that argument on here. That would be an interesting conversation to have in the future, though.
Can I have Savage? Savage, sorry, Savage wants to respond.
Yeah. I was gonna pass it to Savage. I know you wanted to Savage.
Well, it wasn't really too much of a response. I mean, honestly, I love the dialogue right now. Going back to the whole solution thing, even though I never directly answered the question, I know of 2 people in my life personally that one has aborted and the other one decided to not abort. The one who did decide to abort was a family member of mine and ended up regretting it later because of what it did to her biologically. Something happened to her, like physiologically, when she aborted her baby. And I don't know if it was like an off count of her hormones or something, but she actually has to take medication in order to balance something about her. And she has told me personally, but I supported her through that. Like I was mid-20s, early 20s when I had supported her in doing that. And she's told me herself that she's regretted doing that. Then on the other hand, I encouraged someone indirectly. I didn't know it was her that was getting the abortion. And, but she never took it. She just wanted to hear my opinion. And that's kind of how where we're at today is like, people are more open and free to talk about it. When I was 15, the first time I heard about abortion, it was a taboo, right? That was frowned upon. I'm 33 years old now, and we're actually able to have the conversation. Hey, babe, if we have sex and, it's too late to put on the plan B, would you be okay if we aborted the baby? Like, yeah, that's fine. That's fucking crazy. You know what I'm saying? That's absolutely fucking crazy to me, but it's a decision. It's a decision that we are bearing rights to now. And so my daughter and my sons are going to have that as a choice. I would rather not it be a choice. I would rather you guys be smart. When we were growing up in health education, men and women, or boys and girls, we were learning about sex together in the classrooms. As far as in America, you signed the permission slip and you learned about your own body. So now, to me, the solution would be, now we have to teach the consequences. If we learned about, chlamydia and the clap and herpes and all this other stuff, let's go a little bit further. Let's show what happens if you make this decision to abort the child, or what are the longer lasting consequences. Because right now, whether it's overturned or it is turned, right to privacy, this abortion thing, all the conspiracies, population control, it's to improve the white race, whatever. I've heard it all. I've absolutely heard it all. But I think what it comes down to is we as a patriarchal society cannot oppress the woman's decision to her own choice if she was raped, right? If it was incest or whatever, if it was a wrong decision or whatever the situation might be, we cannot take that away from her. But on the flip side of that, if the man wants to be there for the child and the woman holds some sort of spite or resistance towards the man, she in no way, shape, or form, uh, like morally cannot punish the man by aborting his child. Even though you may not love him, you cannot do this. You cannot do this to his child. So there are very unique situations and circumstances. And I honestly think the best way to get over this hill is to teach it now. Teach it now. You have to, because the consequences are coming as soon as possible. When we're in the room and, hey, you know, I want to abort the baby. Well, you live in this state and you can't do that. And I'm going to tell the cops if you do. What the fuck? Bro, that's her right. But, you know, on the flip side of that, well, because you don't love me, I'm gonna throw the baby away. What the fuck is going on here? This shit is out of control. That's what's gonna happen in the next 5 years. It's absolutely lunacy. But that's all I wanted to say.
No worries.
So, my
Nancy, go ahead,
suggested
Nancy.
question, if I may. So, right, so everybody's talking about abortion being bad. So let's say Samoa is illegal, and I'm not sure where else is illegal or whatever. So what do you do to the female that had no choice, you know, to get it aborted or didn't have the money, go through the whole term and dump the baby in the garbage can, dump the baby in the dumpster?
Can I go?
Go ahead. Yep.
Okay. So I actually agree with Savage, just to point out the last stuff that he was saying about how it should be, how that's why I think the whole thing, the Roe versus Wade thing, is important, because even though like abortion overall isn't banned in the US, you know what I mean? It's just certain states, which I think personally that should be the right for certain states. I like what Savage had said about how that option should be available, because, you know, like what Cashapp said, there are women in other countries like Samoa and Tonga, and I know Fiji is one of those places where, you know, and like going back to what I said about my friend, like, and you know, my friends, they didn't tell me if these girls were raped or incest or molested, but they're talking about middle-aged girls, you know, drinking bleach or using a wire coat hanger, you know, to stick it up and like to pull the baby out. Like, we're talking about like some serious things. So that's why, even though what have I ever, you know, I had a child of wedlock, did I get an abortion? No. Was that my thought process? No, it wasn't. I was raised, you know, in a very different household. I know women in my life that have gotten abortions. One of them was elderly woman. You know, she's an older Tongan woman that I know of, that she got an abortion when she was in an abusive marriage. I was really surprised by that, because she's she's a Reformed Christian now. But I have a lot of respect, and when I asked her about it, you know, because, you know, mind you, again, she's an older Tongan woman, and that's not something that us Pacific Island women talk about, especially, you know, the older generation. And so when I asked about her experience, she told me, she's like, yeah, she's like, my husband would beat on me. And she found out she was pregnant, and she just decided to one day, you know, get an abortion. And when I asked her if she regretted it, she said no. You know, and same thing with my other friend that had gotten an abortion, because she was, I don't know what the situation was with her, but her and her partner decided that, you know, they had 2 children back to back. They're a year age apart. She was pregnant with a third. She was like, I ain't ready for another one. They agreed to, you know, get the procedure done. I asked her if she regretted it. She was like, you know, she said no, not really, but she's pro-choice now. And then one of my other cousins, he's, you know, who's a male, his girlfriend got 2 abortions. He regrets it, you know? So my whole thing is that, like, you know, the choices you make is the choices that you're going to have to live with. Now, if you live in a state and you're pro-choice, then maybe you should move to a state where they're pro-choice. You know, if you're pro-life, then move to a state where it's pro-life. You know, do you like do whatever is best for yourself. But the thing that I don't like is when people start to say, well, the entire United States should be anti-abortion or pro-life or pro-choice. That's the part I don't agree with. Because not everybody is raised the same as we are. Not everybody's Christian. Not everybody's, has an American mindset. Not everybody's Polynesian, white, Mexican, there's different colors of the rainbow everywhere. So that's my issue, is that when this narrative becomes, like when we talk about God and morals, well, every people from different countries have different morals and different values. Native Hawaiians, we, like in our culture, and I'm talking about the culture back in the day, we had abortions. I'm not sure how Samoa and Tonga was, before colonization, but pre-colonization, Native Hawaiians had abortions. We had procedures for that stuff. We had certain medicine people that performed abortions because we believe that whether the woman was raped or whether it was a chief messing with the commoner, and the baby was going to be unclean or whatever, we believed in abortion. So to say that everybody has to believe in this one mindset or that everybody has to be pro-choice or pro-life is wrong. Yeah.
Okay.
So
Thank you for sharing that, Lonnie. I want to appreciate that. I think Auntie brought up a very good question. I want everybody to kind of respond to it. Auntie, can you bring up that question one more time? Because I know some of the guys wanted to respond to it. It's a question that you brought up right before, Lonnie.
Yeah, so I think my question was, if you take away a woman's right or whatever, and let's say she carries the baby all the way to term or whatever and goes in back of the dumpster and, has the baby or dumps them in the street or whatever. Sometimes you can't even tell what females are pregnant because they're like hiding it. They wear big clothes, whatever the case may be. Like, what do you call that? Murder? Because what is that? She had it already and she just dumped it and then she gets arrested or she gets put in jail. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you're taking the choice away from her. But then if she listens to you forever, you know what I'm saying? Then she gets penalized regardless. So go ahead.
Well,
Hey,
she always has to go.
Can you mute it?
Devil, before you go, sound.
go ahead.
Auntie, there's a sound. There's a sound that goes. That's whenever you speak, there's a background sound that kind of comes on real quick. It makes it hard to hear you.
Just static.
Yeah, check if you don't have your mobile phone next to the microphone. Check if you don't have nothing that interferes over there.
Okay.
Right.
To go off.
But Devil, I know Devil wanted to go. Devil, you wanted to respond to that question.
Oh.
Yeah, I think her question kind of exposes a common mindset we have in Western first world countries, and that's like, what if women are punished to the same extent of men? Like, have you ever heard that question asked when the black kids that are born into a family? My best friend, mom was a stripper, dad's a drug dealer and a gangster, brothers and cousins are drug dealers and gangsters, impoverished family. He decides to sell drugs. Who feels sympathy for him when we send him to jail? And that's a result of, it's a wrong action. So the point I'm making is just when it comes to philosophy, it's like men get sent to jail for life for killing babies. The same women will let somebody crash their car on accident into a woman driving that's pregnant. She loses the kid. They'll say manslaughter, right? But if she decides to have the kid and she's poor and dumps it in the dumpster, let's feel bad for her. And I think that is a huge philosophical inconsistency that we could do without kind of in the West. It's like, well, I don't think we're forcing them to do anything except for kind of live with kind of the results of their actions. And there are women who go through abortions that lose their ability to have children. There are people who are great upstanding citizens that find out they're infertile. There's a lot of red tape keeping people from adopting babies in the U.S. There are a lot of couples waiting to adopt babies that can't because of the shortage and because of the red tape the government puts behind it. Why not just give that child to them? Some of those women could be women who had abortions and lost their ability to have the kids because they were maybe a back alley abortion, or the doctor messed up, or their body just didn't respond the right way to it. It's like there are so many solutions outside of killing what might be a human life, whether you're religious or not. I think that we should explore those options before, and I don't think we should feel any kind of remorse for someone once they decide to end another, in that case, human being's life as a result of their circumstances or not. Like, I mean, the fact that it happened sucks, and I would like to strive towards having a society where a woman's never put in that position, but that would never justify her action. That's my kind of answer to the question.
Go ahead, Vita. You're on mute.
All right, yeah. Advocate nailed it. Only double standards that benefit women are always somewhat ignored, but as soon as the double standards benefit men, they're always contention, and that's one of the reasons. A response to her not being able to have the abortion, saying that she doesn't have a choice. She clearly had a choice to have consensual sex, and then now when the baby come to term, she couldn't handle it. Whatever the case may be, she gets to throw away the baby, whatever the case may be. And most people say, oh, she shouldn't be punished for that, because we metaphorically put her in a position to have to force have that baby, when that's obviously not the case. It's a lie. It's not the truth. She definitely still had the choice. She just couldn't live with the consequences, and she made another bad decision to dispose of the baby. Because if you switch the roles, you give that to a father, you're putting them behind bars without hesitation. You're going to put them on child support. And I would agree that both of them should be punished regardless of genders, but only when it's the mother, when we feel some type of sympathy. And that's where it's not the same. It's not equal.
What if the kid is a Celtics fan? Is that okay?
Honestly, I actually like the Celtics fan, so I would personally.
Here we go.
Oh man,
I'm disappointed. But Will, can I just say one thing real quick?
Go ahead.
Yeah, this is where my stance changed. You see why I put the emphasis on fetus? As soon as the kid is out, is viable outside of the womb, he's a baby. So you killed the person, so you have to go to jail. I'm very consistent with my opinion in relation to that, because instead of putting him on the garbage, you could walk around 30 minutes and put it on the front of the orphanage inside of a basket. That's the reality. So I'm very consistent with that. If he's viable outside of the womb, if a woman does that, she should be charged with murder, because that's exactly what she did. She murdered somebody.
Yeah, I want to have an input on this, and this has nothing to do with double standards or whatnot. Until a vast majority of women can tell me with no shadow of a doubt that they can choose whether to love or not love a baby when it comes out of the womb, then I will change my stance. Because that's exactly what we're saying here when we say that abortion is all right and all of these things. This is it has nothing to do with religion or whatnot. If you can choose, as a woman, if you can tell me that you can choose with no emotion attached whether you can enforce your love or take away love from a child that has been freshly born, then I will agree with you that you should have the right to kill that child, because you have all the rights decisions. What is the difference between a baby outside of the womb and a baby inside of the womb? This is the only event where a new human being is formed, and we want to apply the same level of standards to a choice. I'm sorry, but that's not how I view humanity. With no religion or anything at all, it's just value and integrity. If you can choose whether you can love or not a human child that's been freshly born, go ahead. You have all the rights.
Okay. All right. No worries. Thank you for sharing that, Daniela. Savage, you want to add on real quick? Go ahead, Savage.
Yeah, with Auntie Calepe was talking about, with her being behind, not her, but the hypothetical woman being behind the dumpster. That to me, man, that's oof. And it's common, actually. That's actually still common today. I would call her Brenda. Brenda had the baby, right? Um, and child development is so important in that aspect because I would look at it from my point of view, my perspective, age, right? If a 16-year-old girl went through that, I'd understand because you didn't have the experience and you thought you knew better. So the only thing that came to your mind as a solution or an answer was to abort the baby in a way by dropping it off behind a dumpster or in the dumpster because you know no better, right? Whereas in an older woman, maybe who knew the situation and circumstances and just was way too embarrassed by her community or whatever what case, you're gonna abort that baby because you don't want nobody to know you ever had that. You never dealt with that situation. And it goes back to my whole thing about I think Devil had mentioned it, and Tui brought it up too. Devil was talking about the line between where does life begin and where does it not. You know what I'm saying? And then Tui was talking about like the responsibility, right? It's a right to kind of have sex and be out there willy nilly, and then if you do it, these are the consequences. We have to teach the children honestly about what's going to happen, right? Choice A, choice B. I mean, because at the end of the day, I really don't know if we can do this as a society. I really don't. It's just going to have to be you either move to that state or stay in this one. Pro-life, pro-choice. Whatever the case is, there is not going to be a definitive solution, because too many factors play in and there's not enough agreement. That's really my like, I understand both sides of the spectrum of Brenda aborting that baby in the dumpster. I understand it, why it's wrong, but also why I would support her. Does that make sense? So that's kind of where I'm at in today's world.
Okay, thank you, Savage. Lonnie, did you want to add on something? I think I saw your hand up raised, Lonnie. Or
I was just agreeing with Savage. Yeah, you got some good points, bro. And Tupac, that's right. Brendan's not a baby. Brendan don't got a kids listen to Tupac. He'll teach you a lot in life.
okay, go ahead, Nancy.
Honey, can you say what you stated before Savage went on? What did you say? If a woman, can you clarify that for me, please?
Who, Nancy?
Taniela.
Daniela.
If you
Yeah, because what I essentially is getting from the argument vast majority of people push for when they're pro abortion is that I should get to choose whether to keep that child or not inside the womb. So what difference does it make whether it's inside or outside of the womb? And I'm making the statement that I will change my stance if the vast majority of women can agree and say it to my face with no emotions tied that they can choose to love a baby or not when it's freshly born. Why is that important? Because now I know that baby, regardless of whether it's inside the womb or outside, or whether its development has no importance on love. It's a decision that you make, and it's a decision that is natural to you as a woman. I will change my stance if I'd say 98% of the women in this world can say it to me with no emotions. Because we all know when a baby is born, that our way of affection is completely changed. And I also can say, if we judge our history, any vast of history, that there was a level of care and protection that humanity have always put on women, and especially when they're pregnant. Whether we knew the science or not, there was a natural way of protecting a woman when she's pregnant. I know for a fact that when my wife was pregnant, I had a very different reaction in terms of hormonal influences and whatnot. Those were natural to me, whether I was religious, atheist, or not. And people can argue that there are some emotional pricks out there that feels nothing at all, but I'm not, and I'm guaranteeing that that's a minute number of people that can emotionally not relate to a woman and want to protect a woman who's pregnant. So if that's a human nature that is natural to us, then we should at least do what we can to support that woman and that man who's made a decision to have sex, and that decision has ended up in a pregnancy. That should be a solution that we should seek. And the right is also inconsistent, and this is why I have a bit of frustration with them, is that they're saying, okay, our stance is pro-life, we will ban abortion. Great, but that's not the solution. We still have human beings coming out into this world. We need to provide solution. We need to support these women. We need to support these young men or older gentlemen. You know, we need to direct their lives in ways that they can be able to provide the financial provision for this child for the next 18 years, if that's where our judgment of minor and adulthood is. So yes, I agree with the right when it comes to abortion, but also at the same time, I'm frustrated when they say this is the solution to a vast majority of the issue when it's not. It's not. You're banning abortion, but you're not giving actual solutions for why you think abortion should be banned.
Go ahead, Devin.
I wanted to even add to that, because one of the first things I wrote down when I tried to break this down, moral, religious, evolutionary, and philosophical areas, I also noted secondary effects. So, like, for example, if we were to only allow abortion in the case of rape and incest, then a secondary effect of that, and I've heard this brought up on another channel, was, what do you think is going to happen to the amount of rape accusations per year? It's going to skyrocket. I would bet money on it. With everything I know about people trying to avoid shame and the results of their decisions, men and women, if a religious girl or a woman or a girl whose parents would disown them if they got pregnant finds out she's pregnant, and the only way for her to get an abortion is to say that she, and she doesn't want to know anyone who the guy is anyways, a lot of women are going to choose that route out. They're going to say it wasn't consensual. And that could put pressure on her to make a false accusation, or just say it happened as a result of it. Then the statistics going to spike. But I mean, anyone who knows anything about human decision making knows that you're inadvertently creating an incentive for women to say that they were great. So we would, if I ran things, I would be ready for those instances as well. And we need to have very clear lines drawn as to what needs to be present to go forward with it in that case. You live in a state that sees that as murder, then you can't just say, okay, we'll murder it because you said it wasn't consensual. It's like, no, who was it? What happened right after it? Like, what is all the possible evidence you have to prove this to us? Because we are going to go after him with everything we have. But to do that, we need proof, and that's the thing with rape is, sex could have happened and there could be proof that happened. There could be DNA evidence, but it's not like a murder where there's a body, because you have to prove consent as well, or the lack thereof. And so it's going to be a very, very, very gray area. There's going to be a lot more to figure out after that.
It's a tricky situation, because even with affairs, you see a lot of women saying, oh, I was touched. It was not, because instead of saying I was drunk and I wanted to hump that guy over there, oh, I was drowsy and I was blackout drunk. We know that this stuff is going to happen, but that's the collateral consequences. If you are going to put consequences to woman behavior, they are going to lash out on another part. If they lash out at the government, either they lash out at their partners. We saw about the sex strikes that they wanted to do to protest Roe versus Wade, but they are going to lash out on someone. So you can do it, but you can complain about the consequences next, because that's exactly what's going to happen.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Go ahead, Auntie.
I guess it a lot of people, I think my point is, and I'm not trying to force it on anybody else, is So listening to the men and everything, it's like you guys are outside looking in, and it's not even, let's put great or all of that on the side, right? Let's just put that all on the side. Females, I'm going to speak because I can only speak on facts. The females that, don't have an option to have an abortion or make a choice for their body that's being taken away. Like, how do you think that's going to be mentally towards a female? Like, everybody wants to say mental health is so important. Mental health is this, mental health is that. Like, has anybody thought about that? What it can do to a female? You know, like how she has to go through her life. You know, either
It's going to be
regret
terrible.
thinking about it. You know what I'm saying?
A lot of women are going to resent their kids. That's the reality. Like you see when somebody has the young kids and they get resentful because they think they are missing out a lot of stuff they could do. They could be getting money, having fun with the friends. A lot of those women are going to be resentful of their own child because they think that's a prison. A lot of women abort exactly because of that. It's not because they don't believe, they don't want to have kids, they want to have kids someday, but that because they believe that that kid is a jail sentence. It's not a jail sentence on a literal side where they go to prison, but it's a jail sentence on their dreams, on their potential earnings, on their career aspirations. So that's what's going to happen. They're going to resent their kids. That's the reality.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to share something real quick at Auntie, and I'm going to pass it on to you guys. The thing for me is, Auntie, this is just my personal opinion. For me, it's just comes down to what is right and what is wrong. And to me is when you have a child, I think whenever you have a child, whatever it's the man or the woman, it is always a responsibility to take care of it. Now you say, hey, what if she not ready for the baby, whatever situation, she's not ready for it, she has some mental health issues, and maybe the bringing a life into the world is going to cause a lot of adversity and stress. The thing is, sometimes when you have to do what's right, sometimes it's going to be hard, but you just got to do it. The same thing when I have guy friends also who have a baby, who got a girl pregnant, and they're worried, like, what am I going to do? I'm not there financially. I'm not where I'm at, and I'm still young. I still haven't experienced my life. The same way I would tell them, hey, but you made that choice. You decided to have sex. Now it's your time as a father to step up and take care of your child. The same way I would say to a woman, you made a decision, and what's the right thing to do? The right thing to do for a mother and a father is to take care of your child. So you may be in a difficult situation. There's always options. There's always people you can rely on. There's always things to do. But I don't think the solution is ever to kill it. It is going to be hard when you make decisions in life. Sometimes you put yourself in a hard decision. You always have to do what's right, especially when it comes to your kids. Is it going to always be perfect? Is it always going to be easy? Of course not. That's just for me. That's called life. And the thing is, for me, it's just we're trying to justify their choices when they made those choices. And all of us on this panel are all grown, we're all adults. We've all made hard choices in our lives. And sometimes those choices put us in situations that was unfair and we weren't ready for it. But we had to do what we had to do what's right for us and to do what's right for our family. But if we allow this to happen, then we're giving them an excuse for people. Hey, when things get tough in your life, the first thing we should always go to is killing a baby. So you won't explore any other option. You won't even try to persevere. You won't even try at least try to take care of your baby and see where that goes. But we're not even encourage them to even try it at all. We're just gonna go, you know what? When things get hard, just kill the baby. And I think that's what I have a problem with. Is what is accountability? When do people take the accountability? When do we get to that point? Like, where is it? I'm trying to figure out is when do accountability for your choices ever come to this discussion? Because that's where I'm always, when I ever have this discussion with people, I never hear the word accountability. I never hear the word, hey, life is hard, life is tough. That's called life. you're 18, you're an adult, and if you had a baby before you're 18, it is what it is. There's people out there in this world in a way tougher situations, in way worse situations, but in life you gotta do what's right, especially when it comes to your kids. I just wanted to add on that, and then Devil, go ahead, Devil.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Wait, before you
Go
go,
ahead.
can I say something? Because I got to jump off, but I just want to say something really quick. Is that, Will, I agree with you, what you said, because a really quick story. I got pregnant on birth control. I was on the depot shot, and I was already married, and I had a really fast-paced job, and I was making a lot of money. My like I, my husband and I weren't planning on having kids until way later. I got pregnant. I contemplated abortion, and this is when my stance changed because I wanted to abort the child, and I wasn't gonna tell my husband. I told my mom and my sister, and they convinced me that I need to tell my husband. So my husband and I talked about it, and we seriously considered aborting it. And we went to the clinic because we were here in Hawaii at the time. We went to the clinic. It took me all of 10 minutes. I saw one girl. She came out crying, and that's all it took. We left. And I don't want to say that I took accountability or responsibility. I took the blessing of having my child. And I changed my stance on abortion. I never looked back. I never thought twice about it after that. So 100% um, responsibility. I mean, again, I was on birth control at the time, but regardless, it happened. So every every female has a choice, but I mean, to me, the choice should be that you don't abort that child because of an inconvenience. I was finishing my master's at the time. I had a very high paying job. Things were stressful. My husband and I were just married, and I am the epitome of a modern woman. You know what I mean? And I chose my child. And I chose to try to have everything all at once, but it all came down to having a family. So, Will, 100% agree with you on that. But on that note, guys, I really do have to jump off. I'm so sorry. Thank you for having me on, Will. Thank you, guys. Love you all. Have a good night.
See
Thank
you
you,
too.
Tui.
Have a good one.
Hearing
Well,
that, Tui. Auntie, did you wanna reply or go ahead, Auntie?
No, I don't. I just love to hear you guys' point of view. But I think it was Devil that wanted to say something.
yeah. Yeah. Got a little static, but so I just wanted to go back to the beginning of your original question. Again, that was a beautiful story from Tui, and I like when people are vulnerable enough to actually talk about their own experiences instead of just what they think other people should do. And I think we can learn a lot from that. But the dance that we've done with women and abortion, it doesn't just start at Roe v. Wade. It was fathers used to be involved in the mate selection process, and they would make sure that the man was stable and a good provider. And that usually counteracted any, game, they call it now game or lust or infatuation that young kids have, because they will always have that. Young people without any responsibility will always want to have sex with each other. And when they hit puberty, when their hormones are surging, women pushed for freedom without responsibility, men gave it to them. Yes, there were the Vital, did you want to add to that before I move on? Because I was going to use that to make a different point. So if you want to jump in real quick, you can.
Actually, no. I was just gonna say bye. That was just a peace
Oh,
sign.
okay. You got to go?
But
All right.
yeah, but I do agree with. Well, you know what? I'll just add to it. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great point because fathers aren't involved in who the daughter chooses to have kids with or marry. It's breaking up the family, and that's another thing why abortion is hurting people. It's just deconstructing the family, the nuclear family, and it's not keeping men and women together. It's keeping them separate.
Very true. Yeah, that's one of the first things we learn. Have a good one, man. Hopefully you'll still be listening. And So it's one of the first things we learned in economics is like cost benefit analysis, and a lot of times new policies they mess up in incentives and they create new incentives. And so by women have pushed for all this freedom, and men have given it to them because men were the ones with power originally. Like women didn't kill half of Congress and claim it for their own. Men said, okay, let's take a vote. Okay, they voted on giving women the right to vote. The amendment was passed. Roe v. Wade happened. Okay, now they can abort their kids no matter whether the man has a say in it. They can abort it even if the man says, I'll adopt it. They don't have to put it into adoption. And now it's gotten all the way to the point where we're supposed to feel bad for women that have the kid, decide to forego giving it to couples who would want nothing more than to have a child and are infertile, and just throw it away. And I think that we've gone so far down that road that the notion of, women having to deal with, with freedom comes accountability, with responsibility, with power comes responsibility. Women, yes, they haven't had as much power as men historically, but they also haven't had as much responsibility. And, like if a woman didn't do her job, men, when we were hunter gatherers, the family might be a little more hungry, but at least they wouldn't be getting torn apart by bears, when the man was building the house and the fence and killing livestock. So now they're getting about as much power as men have, if not more, because they're actually the majority and it's a democracy that we live in, or a representative democracy or republic, whatever. There's more of them than us, and we vote. And they're having a lot of trouble with the responsibility that comes with that power that they're just being shoveled on. We gave them the vote without selective service. The men had to say that they would be willing to go put themselves in front of a grenade or a missile or bullets to vote. But women wanted it, so we just gave them the right to vote. I'm not saying they shouldn't vote, but you can kind of see where the dance is, how the dance has been the last 100 years. And I think that now there's just all this toil is from what comes with the responsibility of being the one in charge, when usually historically it was men. I'll give you that. It's usually been men, for better or for worse. And I'm not saying men were perfect at it either. There's a lot of problems that came with that model as well. So sorry for the long-winded response. I think 10 Yellow wanted to go next, and Laney.
Yeah. Lonnie, go ahead, Lonnie. Go ahead, Lonnie. Yeah, I know you wanted to add on real quick.
Oh yeah. I just wanted to say that I think, America is the first world country. So is New Zealand, Australia. And I'm on Big Island right now, visiting family in Hawaii, and I live in a very rural area compared to where I currently live, which is in Alaska. And even though it's a pretty rural area, like we have access to services, you know what I mean? And so I feel like in this day and age, especially for those of us living in first world countries, we have access to services for mothers that are pregnant, whether you're married, unmarried. There's WIC, food stamps, housing, Section 8. You know what I mean? So I feel like even though because I do feel bad for women, like someone who feel like they don't have any options. I feel like we've advanced so much in society that there are options for us. You know what I mean? There are ways for us to get out of poverty or to help us, achieve our goals, whether that's going back to school or going back to the workforce. There are avenues available to women who are pregnant, whether they're ready for that next journey in life or not. And as somebody who became pregnant at 19, you know what I mean? I participated in some of those avenues myself. I was on food stamps, I was on WIC, and I wasn't ready for a child. I don't think any preparation that you do personally or financially could have prepared you for having a kid. But at the same time, I feel like we have to stop kind of playing that narrative, that women don't have options when we have options, even though that option may not be abortion. You know what I mean? But yeah, that's all I want to say. Thanks.
No worries. I had a question for Auntie. After Daniela. I know Daniela, you want to go. I have a question for Auntie real quick, but go ahead, Daniela.
I'll say your question. I'll sort of wrap it up towards the end. But
I want to ask, Auntie, do you
yeah.
believe that if you have a child, if you choose to have a child, that you should always take responsibility for your kids? Do you believe in that value, that core value?
Yeah, that's a value. That was a value taught to me when I was. My grandma always said it to us: if you lay down and have kids, then you're responsible to take care of your kids. Yeah.
Can I just add on this, and then I want to hear your response. So, if you believe in that value, do you believe that abortion empowers people to have those type of values? Because what I see today, and we've talked about this on previous podcasts, this is the culture of modern day dating, where it's casual sex, right? And the thing is, for me, is like, if we allow abortion to happen, what's going to stop people? What's going to stop people or push people to be more accountable when the choice is, hey, I can just kill the baby. So if a girl doesn't want to take care of her baby, she's, you know what, I'm just going to kill the baby. If the father doesn't want to take care of the baby, he's going to encourage, because now I think Savage brought it up, in the next 5-10 years, the dating culture, the culture is going to be, we're going to have a generation of kids where the guy with the men will be like, hey, it's okay, I can just have sex, because if I'm not ready to be a father, I can just tell my girl to have to get an abortion. And if the girls, you know what, I could just have sex, and then if I don't be accountable to be able to vet them to make that they're good daddies and they're good men, if I don't like, if he doesn't love me back, and he treats me, I made a bad choice, I'm just gonna kill the baby. So like, how, for me, is just my problem is, how does that help kids become better people, better men, better women, better fathers, better mothers? Because I just see this encouraging bad behavior. It doesn't eliminate the behavior or encourage people to take accountable and change the course, so we can be better fathers, better mothers, create better families. All I see abortion does is it's just going to break apart the family. And that's the thing for me, is like, and that's, I guess, my question to you, because you have kids, you have sons. So your response to that?
I've been the realest auntie since I had this platform, and it's not gonna stop now. I just wanted to hear you guys out and understand where you guys are coming from. I'm a hypocrite, and I had to learn from my lesson. It was instilled in me growing up. It was instilled in me to read the Bible, pray every day. You know what I mean? Don't do this and don't do that. And it was just a basic Samoan hustle. Never taught a relationship. It was always bad. Don't look at boys. Boys don't share rooms with girls. Girls don't share rooms with, all of that. You're speaking to somebody that has been on both sides. And I'm completely honest, because I hope that you guys can see a vision. You don't have to like me. It's my journey, and the way that I'm going to go about it is the way that I'm going to go about it. So I had an abortion, and I didn't know what to do. I didn't know what resources to take. All you guys, I'm hearing all of this that you guys are saying. Go give them to the 30 minutes. They're 30 minutes away. Go over here and give them to a family. You know what I mean? That is gonna take your baby. Like, I'm listening to you guys, and I'm inhaling this, and I was just like, wow. I wonder if I say that I am. For a long time, I called myself a murderer. I was going to hell. I never said. My mom and dad probably don't even know. They probably know now. Because of shame, because of uneducated or whatever. But now I'm a better mom. Everybody's like, you're a good mom, and this and that, because of condemnation. I put my trust in all that I do, but I also had to forgive myself to know that, was it wrong what I did? Absolutely. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. I'm a murderer. I'm a murderer because I didn't give that baby a chance. And I know that. But my only thing is choice. Choices in life. Like, my choice is to speak out to you guys. My choice is to come and tell you. Whatever shame that I'm going to get from this, it's on me. Because like you guys said, the consequences of it may be good or bad. Whether the state says they can do it or they can't do it or whatever, I'm a good mother because of the lesson that I learned. And a lot of us growing up, we don't listen. Oh, you're going to learn when you grow up and you're this age. Like, we're young, we don't listen to all of that. But it clicks after, when different scenarios happen to you and you're put in a situation. That's why I am the way that I am. That's why I have a journey, because I was put in a situation. I don't need to say how, who. The thing is, I did it. But does it make me a better person today? And am I saying, hey, you know what? Oh, you went fucked the wrong way. Go, girl. Well, get what? No, that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is give them the opportunity, the resources like you guys are calling out in the schools, in elementary school. Post them all over the place. How you post about bullying and post about guns. But to me, people are going to do what they're going to do regardless. If it's money, they'll come up with the money. They're going to do it regardless. You know what I'm saying? People drop money all the time to get, whatever done, your ass done, your tits done, your face done, whatever the case may be. If somebody really wants it, they're going to jump state and they're going to do it. So whether we overturn it or turn it or whatever, the person's going to do what they're going to do. And Wills, I've known you for quite some time, and I've been on your podcast, and you've never known me to be fake. But to you, gentlemen, and also Lonnie, please understand, it does fuck with my mental stability. It does, because I have it in my mind. I would honestly say, like, 4 years ago, probably 4 years ago, I tried to call them back again, just so I could know the date I went in, or what would happen if it was this? Like, what would happen if I do that? How come I deserve to live? Like, just, it fucks with somebody's head. It does. So whether it's great, everybody's saying, oh, great this, great that, or whatever. What if you were never taught what to do? What if it wasn't in your household to speak about it, and then when it happens to you, you're just like shit out of fucking luck to go behind the dumpster and fucking pop it out? You know what I'm saying? What if you don't have that parents of, don't do boys, don't do girls? And I'm sorry for getting emotional because I know these little girls. I've heard stories. Shh, don't say nothing. If you say something, then you know what you're going to get. And it's always in the Polynesian community, and I'm going to speak about our Polynesian community. All I'm saying is give these girls resources to make a choice to better themselves. That's it. That's it. If you feel like you want to have it, then fine. But resources are fucking key, just like homeless. What are we doing? I'm here. I did a whole road trip. Sorry, Wills, I know my answer's wrong. But all this land right here, you could be building houses, taking people. The fucking government cares? No. You just lost a whole bunch of kids at a fucking school because of guns. But guess what? The guns went on the bottom, and the fucking, Roe versus Wade came, the headlines of everything. But we forgot those kids that just died. That's murder too. So either way it goes, people are going to do what they're going to do regardless. I had to hold it in for a very long time until I learned the definition of condemnation. And I had to let go in order for me to heal and for me to be happy. Was it right? Absolutely. Don't take that shit and be like, oh yeah, she did. She knew. No. I even told my boys about it before I told, like, they knew. So thank you for just letting me let you guys know that you're speaking to somebody that's on both sides of the fence, and it's not easy. Thanks, Will.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Auntie. Daniela, you wanted to finish off?
Yeah, what Auntie is talking about, and I don't think there's going to be any words that will offer you any any more healing than what you're currently going through, and how you process that. And no words from a man is going to be able to mimic what a woman can do in terms of support, especially when it comes to this issue. So I wish you well in this journey that you're on, Auntie. But this is a big part of the reason why the left will never convince me to be pro-abort, because they preach that women should have a choice, but guess what? They do not support women that go through abortion. You turn up, they give you a little, whatever it is, consultation that they give you. They go through the action or whatever the procedure is, and then they leave the women to dry. They do not follow up in terms of mental health support. They do not follow up in terms of, hey, I know this was your decision, but next time that you would have a child, here are some avenues of XYZ that we can direct you into in terms of supporting this baby, whether if that's going to be your decision. The left will never convince me to jump over purely out of that fact. There is no support, and my frustration is the same for the right, who I agree with the decision of abortion, and I view abortion as, unfortunately it is the killing of a human being, but they're not also giving solutions for women who in their state are now not given the option. And the other thing that, to be consistent, and especially for men, we need to uphold other men to a level of standard where we still view women as women and children as something as valuable as we used to. And my stance on pro-life or all of these things don't come from a arbitrary sort of mindset. I believe in the family, and I believe in my role as a father. And I believe that right from the beginning, because I had a great father who taught me all these values, and I see it works. I had an argument with my mother about certain things, and she yelled at me that I wish I aborted you. And that's not a pity party sort of engagement, but it is. If she did, probably we wouldn't have this conversation. But I'm thankful that she's made the decision to give me up for adoption, which has also helped my worldview and how my son has come into my life. He's not biologically mine, but the duty of a father to me is still important, regardless of whether the child is yours or not. And I think what we're looking at here with what the left is preaching to women is degrading and damaging, in the sense of, why do you not support women regardless of your stance right from the get-go? If you're pro-abortion, then you should be all the way. You should support that woman until she is considered healed and that she can move on with her life. Because that is the nature of when we end a human life. It will stick, and it will fuck with you, and it will drive you to the ground if you don't have the support. But the left is selling it as a...
And I didn't have that.
Yeah.
And I didn't have that. And sorry, go ahead.
You carry on, Auntie. My stance is just clear. We have essentially a party of pro-abortionists who are so hypocritical in their stance that they want to support women's right, but not all the way. Just up to that door until you get out. Hands off. So, yeah.
And I think that's the main thing. That's the only thing. But the approach of the women is like, because women are very emotional. They work off of their emotions. And if they would have just like come and be like, hey, you know what? Okay, if you guys do this, then let us go ahead and do that. Okay, you guys want us to, make sure that we're strapped up, or, make sure we pick our cool. But exactly what you said, Tani, is exactly what I wish they had back in the day. Follow through, because now there's all this money, all this resources, but they feel like cutting it off is going to solidify everything. No, that's just like putting a Band-Aid on something until it comes off, and then boom, it's going to keep on like opening. If you set the foundation, and I think I say this, if you set the foundation correctly and you build from that, by all means, you know what I'm saying? It's going to either make or break your house. So I can honestly say I appreciate you guys' thoughts, because me and Lonnie came in this, kind of like in the middle, and I still feel the same way, whether it pushes us back or pushes us forward or whatever. We really got to look at individual humans that are feeling that go crazy for a reason or turn to drugs or whatever. And if we just spend more time at home, going ahead and talking, and schools giving out the correct resources, or police officers doing what if everybody does their part, then, but it's never gonna be like that. We can just hope. But thank you. Sorry, that's what I had to reply.
Of course. And I would just add on, Auntie, even the states that are pro-choice, right? Are pro-choice, and they want the women to give them the right to get an abortion. My added opinion on that is, why not provide resources and give them all the options first before the ultimatum is abortion? That's just my, because what they like. Sometimes I hear the push. Oh, just something happens, just kill the baby. So why don't sit them down, give them the resources. Hey, this is option A, option B. This is what you can do. This is so if we educate the women about their choice, because I feel like they're not educating them about the choice. They tell them to make the choice, but they don't tell them what's going to happen to them emotionally, what's going to happen to them psychologically, what's going to happen to them financially. The regrets. I think we should provide more programs to women, even if they are pro-choice, to give them all the information so they can make an educated, the best decision. Just like first option is just kill the baby. I think that's maybe, I guess that's just my added opinion for the pro-choice states, is to, because there are, like Daniela, some of you guys said, there are a lot of women who make that choice and then they totally regret it after. But the deed is done already. So I think there's more education. I would agree with that. Lani and Devil, any final thoughts real quick before we end the podcast?
Lonnie, you want to go ahead?
Oh yeah. Thank you actually for sharing your story. I know it takes a lot of courage to share what you've been through. I think everybody is right, when it comes to, even though we all have different viewpoints on abortion and whatnot, but I think one thing that Auntie brought up is, educating people and educating, women about their choices. And Taniela and I, we kind of we touched on this in that podcast we were on about single moms, and even the last podcast I was on with Will about about transgendered kids. And at the end of the day, it comes to the home, and teaching children. And I think especially within Pacific Island communities, and even though with me growing up, sex was not talked about. We weren't, there was no, sex ed. There was no, this is what you do, contraceptives. It was just, don't have sex, don't look at boys, don't talk to boys. You know what I mean? And I can see where our elders tried to, and I'm not trying to degrade our elders or put them down, because I love them and I know they tried their best to teach us the way that they wanted us to be raised up. But as a mom now, I teach my kids about sex ed. I teach, and my daughters are 10 and 9, or 11 and 9, and, I talk to them about contraceptives. Not the whole shebang, but I go over these things so that they are educated and they do know, what to do if they are sexually assaulted or raped or whatever. And when my son becomes old enough, I'm going to have that same conversation with him too, because at the end of the day, education is key. And I feel like whether I believe in whether or not you're pro-choice or pro-life, I think we all kind of agree that there needs to be a reform in how children are taught about things like sex education, and and about how your actions have consequences, and what to do in situations where you are sexually assaulted, and and consent. These are things that need to be talked about. And I think the thing with the whole Roe versus Wade is that I think a lot of people are getting caught. Like, yes, the whole issue in itself is a big political issue, but I think there's a lot of things that you can look at when it comes to this case and see where we as parents need to kind of hone in on what we need to teach our kids, you know? So I think this is a great discussion, and thank you everybody for tuning in and, putting their thoughts, and even for everybody else that wasn't, that logged up, and especially Nancy. I'm sorry you got like emotional. I felt so bad when you're crying.
Oh,
You know,
no,
because
don't wait.
because I know it's hard for you, because the women that I've talked to about it, even though, they weren't upset about it, I could tell it's still, and that's the other thing too about, there are no after services, it's like, okay, you got your procedure done now, but
I think the only thing my closing remarks on top of this, and I'm going to be transparent as I always, my thing is, we have these podcasts, we have our input, we have everything, but what are we doing as individuals? That's why I base my platform off of the youth. That's why I really speak to the youth, because the term "our kids are our future." You know what I'm saying? Like, that's all drained out. Like, I'm just like, oh, really? Like, how? What are you doing to help them? I feel if by little, it's just like, when you tell your kids clean the room and stuff, after me going ahead and sharing my heart, people may come at me or whatever, but God has already prepared me. I'm not religious or anything, but I know my faith, and I know exactly how He's already taught me the lessons that I need to do, and I've learned them to be able to come on this podcast and share my story. The only thing I feel is I'm helping the youth to understand that it's okay to speak out, to be okay with sharing information when things are bad at home, or, you need somebody to talk to. That's why my platform is so important to me, because I have spoken to young girls. I have spoken to women. I have, trying to help them out. And I feel I'm a resource. And I feel like if we, even men too, Connie and Devil, if we start in our community, instead of just, having an opinion or making a difference, I think that'll make us, what we're talking about, more valid, instead of just jumping on a podcast and giving our thoughts and speaking about it when we're not doing our part to change the world. You know what I'm saying? And so even you guys thought, about, killing a baby and everything, somebody may agree with you, but go about it the wrong way, by cussing out these females, by looking down on them, by belittling them, and just really harming them. But if you guys go with you guys' tone to speak, to say it's okay to have two different, visions, but what is the conclusion? Because problem solution, what is the solution we are going to do to come together as Americans and the United States to bring positivity, which we can't erase negativity, but what can we do in our community to grow into state and to the world? So that's my only closing remarks. To you, to Will, to your viewers and everything like that, ask yourself, what are you doing to give back to your community? What are you doing in order to make a change in the world? Because we all got an opinion. We all got to say so. And we all got to make money by having a podcast to bring in all of us on here, or whatever the case may be. But really ask yourself, what is your purpose? And if you're bringing meaning to your purpose. So that's what I wanted to say. Will, everybody, thank you so much. I'll be on before you close, but that was my closing remark.
Yeah, no worries. Thank you so much. Any final thoughts from everybody? Devil, final thoughts real quick, and so we can close.
Yeah. Taniela made a good point. I was going to respond to it quickly with a quick remark, but Taniela, if you could sum up your response for me real quick, because like 3 other people went after you. What was your closing remark? If you could just give me like a 15-second summary, and I'll be quick.
In regards to, you want me to go before you?
Oh, I was going to respond to what you said last. I thought it was your closing remark. And then I was going to just... Yeah, but I was asking you what you said because I forgot because 3 people went
right.
after you.
It's a shame that what I'm essentially alluding to is that we have both sides of the coin, and my frustration with the right is that we're not providing enough solutions. But I'm deeply more disturbed by the left when they preach that they support women's rights. Yeah.
And sorry to cut you. Yeah, you can finish if you want, but I already, that was enough for me to remember what it was. The left-right dynamic. I completely agree with you, and I see too much feel-good politics coming from the left. I don't think they care about illegal immigrants. I think that they want more Democratic votes. I don't think they care about women getting abortion. I think that giving women power is a great talking point to get more votes, and then they hang them out to dry after they get the abortions. I don't think they care about their own people. And just as you said, you won't see much action after election cycles. It'll be another 3 years, and they'll start writing, trumped up stories about hot political topics. So I completely agree with you. And that's a reason why I'm going to be very hard to pull back, on the left side, because I would say I'm like a moderate conservative at this point, and I grew up far left. My mom was far left, and then I was the only other kid in the household, no father. So those were my default views. So I just wanted to agree with you there. And Auntie's story is a perfect example of their feel-good politics not actually doing good. I would ask, how much good did it do to abort the 30 million black fetuses? Are we really better off without having those human beings on this earth? Because I think that'd be a hard argument to make. Granted, they never got a chance, and also those mothers probably never got the support and were just left out to dry, just like Auntie was. So I think that's pretty back to front and pretty condemning of the people pushing for abortion being the first option and without exploring every single other option, which we're not doing. So that's kind of the middle ground, and that's where I think we all agree. That's all I got.
All right, no worries. Thank you so much for everybody that's watching this right now. I appreciate everybody. But yeah, shout out to everybody on the live chat. Thank you so much for everybody in the live chat for all your comments, and I see a lot of your feedback, whether you agree or disagree. I see some new names real quick. I see Dunda Time. Didn't the Spartans throw babies off a cliff if they are weak? Is that a bad thing these days?
This is Sparta!
Oh man, yeah.
Great time.
Thank you for your comment. I know there's a lot of people that's brand new on the live chat I'm seeing for the first time. Alex Moynot, they leave the border child and mother to dry, literally. Yeah, thank you for sharing that, Alex. I appreciate you, man. Yeah, no, there's not a lot of help and resources for the women when they have to make those choices. But thank you so much for your come to the end. And thank you for everybody that's watching this live on the chat. And shout out to all the guests, Auntie, Devil, Daniela, and of course, Savage, Fatty, Lani, Matilda, and Navita, and Tui. And then shout out to Tui as well. Thank you for sharing your journey. And of course, Auntie, thank you for always being yourself and being real, always sharing your journey of yourself. And thank you so much for everybody that's watching this live. Don't forget, we do this every single Wednesday. So if you missed out, watch it from the very beginning. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. Conversations and topics that we discuss every single Wednesday. And tune in next Wednesday. We'll definitely have a new panel and a new topic to discuss. But yeah, I know it's been a long night. Thank you for always taking the time to be here, guys. I appreciate you guys. Auntie, I always love you, Auntie. Thank you for always jumping on. Devil, Daniela.
Yes.
Peace.
All right. Well, we are.
Thanks, Auntie.
I'll do that.
All right, Tani.